Good evening, everybody. If I could ask you to take your seats, please. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Thank you, everyone, and thank you for your patience. While we're in our temporary facility, council chambers, we've got limited capacity, so we'll try to move this through as quickly as possible this evening. If I could remind everybody to put your cellular devices on an inaudible mode so you don't disturb the proceeding this evening, that would be appreciated, and to remind members of council to try and refrain from using your cellular devices this evening as well. All members of committee are in attendance this evening with the exception of Councillor Miles, who is on other municipal business, and Councillor Dillon. There are a lot of changes to the agenda this evening, members of committee. I'll go through them, but the package is in front of you. A number of items, as you know, on the agenda were listed as going to be handed out this evening, and they are before you. One is 6.1, the presentation by Commissioner Elliott on the modernization of planning and development services for a future-ready city, as well as the complementary.
Can we stop the meeting and wait for people to sit down and quiet? I can't hear.
Okay.
Close the door.
Thank you. And the other is the complementary report to the presentation. It's item 7.1, the report from Commissioner Elliott on the modernization of planning and development services. The following was received by the clerk's office after the agenda was already printed. Regarding item 4.1, we have a registered delegation of Angela Battison, Main Market Development Group. I do want to express that doesn't mean that nobody else can speak on it. With this being a statutory public meeting, we have one registered delegation, but others are free to come to the podium this evening as well. We have correspondence on item 4.1 from Angela Battison, Main Market Development, from Cindy Meisner, a Brampton resident, Asima Vizina, President and Vice Chancellor of Algoma University, and Glenda Mallon, Acting Assistant Vice President, Facilities Management and Development of Ryerson University. On item 4.3, we have one registered delegate, Jotvinder Sodhi, a Brampton resident, and we have received correspondence from Jotvinder Sodhi, Sunny Dillon, Steve Sakuti and Despina Spencer, Joe and Teresa Bianchi, Sundeep Singh, Ton Nguyen, Jazz Tut, Raj Tut, AJ Benewal, Jaswinder Singh, Rajiv Saini, Harjit Singh, and Harbat Singh Daliwal. On item 4.4, we've received correspondence from Scott Stewart and Karen Houlihan, Tasneem Hashmi, Sandy Sonzaitis, Vinay Chandra Gudapadu Narendranath, and Lakshmi Sandarashi Petluri. On item 4.5, and I do apologize if I've mispronounced anybody's name. On item 4.5, we've received correspondence from Amarjit Badam, Gurwinderjit Rubal, Joe Kwok, Prajot Dillon, Tony Marachi, Daval Mehta, and that appears to be it. With those changes to the agenda, are there any other proposed changes to the agenda? Councillor Medeiros.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would like to add a delegation request, which would be 5.1. Mr. Zabula Abduli and Mr. Tikala Abduli. And my apologies if I mispronounce the names. It's regarding 60 Eastern, and I believe it's regarding a zoning issue, if I'm not mistaken. Exemption 2, yeah.
Okay, that'll be item 5.1. Are there any other proposed changes? Additions? Thank you. Would someone like to move approval of the agenda? Councillor Bowman. All those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Are there any declarations of interest under the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act? Seeing none, there are no items under consent. So we'll move now to the statutory public meeting reports.
Madam Chair,
Yes?
if I could just advise the committee that we have a number of members of the public out in the hallway, some who do wish to speak on some of these items, so I would ask maybe the committee's indulgence when we call and ask if there's anybody interested in this room. We may also have to just check out in the hallway as well, because I know
Okay.
there's some people that wish to speak on multiple items on tonight's agenda.
Does everybody hear that? Did everybody hear that? The clerk advised that because of the capacity issue for this room, there are a number of people waiting in the hallway. I understand 40 or 50 people. So it may take a little bit longer to move delegations into our temporary chambers so that they can speak. So if I could ask for everybody's indulgence as we try to move this through as swiftly and as organized as possible. Councillor Fortini.
Sorry, Chair, I was going to ask the same thing, but do they have another TV outside or somewhere where they could see because there's so many people? It's very unfair for those people not to hear what we're saying.
For you, Madam Chair, the conservatory is set up
Oh,
for
there
people
is?
to
Okay,
observe.
that's great.
But there are a number of people here who wish to come speak.
I get, as long as they can, thank you.
Okay. Thank you. So we've now moved to the statutory public meeting portion of tonight's meeting. This is a public meeting of the Planning and Development Committee held in accordance with the requirements of the Planning Act of Ontario. The proposals to be heard at this public meeting are the result of applications made under the Planning Act. These are not proposals of the City of Brampton unless they are specifically identified as city-initiated proposals. Tonight, we do have one city-initiated proposal on the agenda, and that is item 4.1. It is regarding a city-initiated zoning bylaw amendment to a university, college, and accessory uses in the historic downtown Brampton. The intent of this public meeting is to hear submissions from the applicant and the public regarding these proposals. Members of the committee may ask questions for clarification, but will not engage in debate on the proposal at this time. Committee consideration of the proposal will occur at a future meeting when planning staff bring forward the final recommendation report on each proposal. The city also has posted to its website at www.brampton.ca supporting information and documentation for all these current development applications for public review and reference. So now we're going to move to item 4.1 on the agenda. It is an application, city-initiated zoning bylaw amendment to permit a university college accessory uses in the historic downtown of Brampton. The applicant is the City of Brampton. This proposal affects multiple addresses in wards 1 and 3, and its city planning file C118-002. Is anyone here this evening who wishes to hear a submission from city staff regarding the proposal? And then I will ask you to come forward and to provide input on this item. Is anybody here that wishes to see a presentation from staff? I see a hand at the back of the room. Okay, so you've got to help me here, Mr. Clerk, with this new process. Where did he go?
Asked the same question outside.
Oh, he's gone out to ask the same question. I told everybody he was going to leave the room, and then I didn't. So, Carmen, I'm going to. Okay, Mr. Clerk, we do have somebody in the room that wishes to see a presentation. So at this time, I'll ask Carmen to make the presentation, and then I'll ask members of the public to come forward. Thank you. Sorry? I can go through them all, and that way somebody can leave, sure. Carmen, if I can ask you, with this new process under the Bill 139, we're still kind of trying to get into a normal routine. I'll move now to 4.2. And it's a report from Kevin Freeman, development planner from Development Services dated June 17th, and it's an application to amend the zoning bylaw and propose draft plan of subdivision to permit 12 single detached lots and 2 part lots, KLM Planning Partners, Inc., 2587499 Ontario, south of Williams Parkway on the west side of Credit View Road in Ward 5. Is anybody here that wishes to see a presentation on that? I'm going to go through each of the 5 planning applications so that anybody who doesn't wish to see a presentation or speak to it, we can adjourn that for this evening.
Madam Chair, perhaps while we're waiting, I know that we have several items that are developer developer applications or private applications. I know that you're seeking to determine whether there is any interest from members of the public to see a presentation. But I'll just remind the chair that under Bill 139, that the applicants do have the
Yes,
right to put that information in should they wish to do so. So notwithstanding that we don't have members of the public here,
to speak on it, we'll
To
give the
speak on it,
applicant an opportunity.
the application,
Okay.
right, exactly. Thank you.
Great. Mr. Clerk, does anybody wish to speak on item 4.2?
For you, Madam Chair, no, but we do have some members that have identified they wish to speak on item 4.1.
On 4.1, great. We know we have a delegation on 4.3. Can I perhaps ask you to see if anybody wishes to speak on 4.4, and then I'll ask the applicants if they wish to make a presentation.
And 4.5.
4.4 and 4.5. So item 4.4 is a report from Stephen Dykstra, Development Planner, application to amend the zoning bylaw and proposed draft plan of subdivision to permit a residential development consisting of 50 townhouse units and 6 single detached dwelling lots, 2128743 Ontario Incorporated, Weston Consulting Group Incorporated. It's 1265, 1279, 1303, 1323, Wanless Drive, south of Wanless, between Credit View and Chinguacousy in Ward 6. Is there anybody in this room that wishes to see a presentation on that application? Anybody in here that wishes to see an application on item 4.4? 4.3, okay, thank you. When we get to that item, I will give you the opportunity. So there's nobody in the room on 4.4. How about, you have somebody out there on 4.4? Okay. Can you ask on 4.5, please? So on 4.5, everybody's putting their hands up. You want 4.5? I don't need to read through it? Wonderful. That'll save some time this evening. Great. Thank you. So at this time, I'd like to ask Carmen Caruso on item 4.1, if you want to come forward and do the presentation, and then I'll invite sorry.
Sorry, just on item 4.4,
4.5, yes.
Madam Chair, through you, to you, on item 4.4, I didn't see anybody put their hand up, nor did the clerk.
The clerk has
The clerk
advised that there are
indicated
people.
4.4.
Yes,
My apologies.
thank you. And we have no delegations on 4.2, but I'll, correct, Mr. Clerk? We have no delegations on 4.2? And nobody in here identified on 4.2. When we get to that, I will ask the applicant if they wish to make a delegation, because they have the right to do that this evening. Do we want to do that now? just Carmen, if you could indulge me. The application on 4.2, KLM Planning Partners. Is the applicant here, Marshall Smith? KLM Planning? Well, the applicant's not here. Either that or he's down in the conservatory. We're going to proceed. Carmen, I'm sorry. This new process is, makes
Good
it look
evening.
like we're disorganized, but we're really quite organized.
Good evening, Madam Chair, committee members, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Carmen Crusoe. I am the Central Area Planner, and I will be managing this city-initiated zoning amendment to bring a university to the city of Brampton. First of all, this isn't working. Oh, there it is. I'm going to go through some key dates. So, on March 14th, 2017, the province announces that Ryerson University, in partnership with Sheridan College, applied to establish a new facility in the city of Brampton. On September 6, 2017, Council commits $150 million investment strategy, $50 million for a new university. On October the 2nd, 2017, final proposal is submitted to the province by Ryerson University. On April 19th, 2018, the province announces $90 million towards a science, technology, engineering, arts, and mathematics, otherwise known as STEM, focused curriculum for Ryerson University in partnership with Sheridan College in downtown Brampton. On May 2nd, 2018, Council directs staff to initiate the planning process to permit a university in downtown Brampton. And then there's one date that I don't show up on the slide, but I should mention is July 11th, 2018. A statutory public meeting under the Planning Act is convened in order to start carrying out the Council's direction of May 2nd. This city-initiated amendment to the zoning bylaw is actually very simple. It's to add a university or college and ancillary uses to the list of permitted uses in the zoning applicable to the specific properties within a defined area. And it's a bit hard to sort of describe it. It sort of zigzags all over the place, but I'll sort of describe it generally as the western boundary is sort of the ORDC lands, Park Street, Elizabeth Street North, and Elizabeth Street South. Again, it zigzags, so that's general. The southern boundary generally includes Wellington Street West and John Street. The east boundary is Mary Street and Union Street, and the north boundary is Church Street East and West, and a small portion of Joseph Street. So I just on the slide you can see the lands that are affected by this proposed amendment. So there are some policy-related reasons for choosing that land area, and I will get into that momentarily. But there's also some logistic reasons for it, and the first is that the area affected by the proposed zoning bylaw will include a site chosen by Ryerson University and supported by the Ministry of Advanced Education and Skills Development. The second reason is, as well as the preferred location being, and I should say the preferred location is at the southeast corner of Mill Street and Church Street. As well as the preferred location, there will be the ability to expand the university uses to other areas of the downtown by Ryerson or Sheridan or other university or colleges who may want to locate in downtown Brampton. So that's why we take the bigger area and not just the site that's the preferred location. And the third reason is all the lands that are within that are affected by the zoning bylaw will be within walking distance of transit. So there's exceptional transit service along Queen Street and Main Street. And of course, we have the GO station, also. So I want to talk a little bit about the official plan. So there are a number of official plan policies which support the university location within the area affected by the proposed bylaw. The lands are designated central area and is within the urban growth center. And in the official plan, the central area and the urban growth center is the part of the city where investment and intensification permitting a wide range of uses, including a wide range of office, retail, and service uses are expected. Also includes a range of institutional and residential uses that are also permitted within this designation. The lands affected by the proposed amendment are within an anchor mobility hub, and this is an area that has strategic importance as it is expected to anchor the regional transportation system, providing connections across the Greater Toronto and Hamilton area. This area is expected to achieve the most intense form of development, and building heights in this area are expected to range from 4 to 25 stories. So with respect to this, the city initiated a rezoning amendment. An amendment to the official plan is not required to permit the university use in this area. Talk a little bit about the secondary plan. With respect to the secondary plan, the land is subject to the amendment is largely follows the boundaries of land designated central area mixed use. The reason so when you saw the location map, that boundary pretty much followed the central area mixed use boundary in the secondary plan. The reason this area was chosen is that the central area mixed use designation is intended to accommodate a mixed use of developments incorporating any combination of commercial, retail, office, residential, hotel, recreational, institutional, and a full range of entertainment and cultural uses. There's also a portion of the land area that includes lands that are designated institutional, which are intended to accommodate major institutional uses. A use such as a university or college is not contemplated in the secondary plan outside of the central area mixed use or the institutional designation. That's another reason why we chose the boundaries as they are. Secondary plan also shows a portion of land within Special Policy Area 3. This area has been determined by the Toronto and Region Conservation Authority to be subject to flooding in a major storm event. The intent of this policy area is to ensure appropriate public health and safety measures are taken while enabling the long-term prosperity of the downtown. This policy area contains a number of technical requirements that include the flood-proofing of buildings and the preparation of a building safety plan. Construction of new buildings within this special policy area will be expected to comply with the policies of the secondary plan. So with respect to zoning, as you can see from the land affected by the bylaw, there are a number of properties which have a number of different zoning categories, and they include permissions that range from commercial, institutional, residential, and open space uses. This proposal intends to expand the permitted uses on these zones to permit a university or college and include ancillary uses. I'd just like to say university use is not mandatory on these lands. The lands affected by the existing permitted uses within the zones, their requirements and restrictions are not expected to change. So there is a zoning bylaw amendment that is required to allow for the university use. A little bit about the next steps in this process. So this city-initiated amendment has been circulated to agencies for comments. So after tonight's public meeting, comments received from agencies received in writing from the public, and all matters raised at this meeting will be evaluated. The proposal will be further evaluated against the provincial policy statement and evaluated against conformity with the growth plan for the Greater Golden Horseshoe, the regional official plan, and the city's official plan. This evaluation may result in the refinement of the proposal. Once the analysis and evaluation is completed, staff will return to Planning and Development Committee with a recommendation report. The report will address all matters raised by members of the public, agencies, and other city departments. Anyone that provides their contact information with respect to the city-initiated amendment will be advised when the recommendation report will be forwarded to for consideration by the committee. And that concludes my presentation. Thank you.
At this time, I'd like to invite Angela Battison as the first registered delegate on this item to speak. And anybody else who wishes to speak, if you want to sort of get in queue, and I'm not sure where the sign-in book is. Oh, over here, this young lady standing at the side has the sign-in book. So if you wish to speak on this item, if I could ask you to sign in and then perhaps line up behind the delegate that's currently at the podium. You have 5 minutes. Welcome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, Acting Chair, or Madam Chair, and councillors, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Gabriel Battison. I'm here with Angela Battison. We represent the Main Market Development Group, a group of property owners who jointly own 11 properties that comprise a total of 1.73 acres of prime development land at Main Street North and Thomas Street, as seen indicated by the red square at the top of the map there. We're here this evening to first congratulate you on the success for bringing a new Ryerson University campus and the Centre for Innovation to downtown Brampton. We are also very pleased that Brampton now has Vision 2040 to guide the new growth for this wonderful city. This is news that we've all been anticipating for a long time, and we are proud to be part of it. We are also here to offer the city our prime piece of investment-ready parcel. Our 1.73 acres is situated ideally, as it is both outside of the downtown flood zone and is only a mere 2-minute walk from the future Ryerson University campus, proposed to be built at the existing GO station. As you recall, Council approved this site for a 9- and 7-story mid-rise residential commercial development through the DPS planning tool. Our strategic location of our property is ideally positioned for attracting investors to help accelerate the Brampton 2040 Vision Downtown Urban Center vision and the university in attracting investors and businesses for the city. In conjunction with the proposed zoning amendment to add university uses to the downtown area, we request that you advise staff to consider permitting university-related uses on our parcel as well. If it is not possible under this amendment, we would then request that you direct staff to initiate a city-directed official and secondary plan amendment to include university institutional uses in the present development permit system for this important parcel of land. We believe this will enable the city to accelerate development opportunities for this rare and development-ready parcel for attracting and marketing the downtown vision and the university master plan. We love Brampton and look forward to collaborating and partnering with the city in building a better and vibrant downtown core. This will be a win-win solution for all of us. Thank you for considering our proposal. We look forward to any direction that the city and council has to offer going forward.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
If I could invite the next delegate to the podium, if you could state your name for the public record, and you have 5 minutes. Welcome.
Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Iris Nava. I've come this evening to discuss a parcel of land to which we own. Did speak earlier to Carmen in regards to that. The old shoe factory business center is part of the rezoning, but there is a parcel of the land, which we're not too sure why it occurred, but we had 2 homes there, and about 10 years ago we knocked them down to incorporate them onto the property for parking. We pay the city taxes. It's all been amalgamated under one tax roll number, and yet it was excluded from the area in question. And we would like to have that included in the area so that it all be zoned together for future use, if any.
Great.
So that's our, okay.
Thank you very much. And our next delegate. Good evening and welcome. If you could state your name for the public
Thank
record,
you.
please.
My name is Margaret Corcoran. I'm a resident of Brampton for 21 years. I own a home on Chapel Street. And I'm concerned about this massive, impactful closing of the Four Corners for 4 years is what I've heard floated around. I know that at the moment with the work on James Street, there has been a bottleneck created in front of my home. And traffic has been stop and go. People can't get out of their driveways. This is a beautiful residential area. I teach in a local high school, and I'm concerned about how, if they plan on, closing a larger portion of the city, not just James Street, how will emergency vehicles get to the high school where I teach, Cardinal Leger, or to St. Mary's Elementary School? I know people coming to my home have expressed grave concern about the inability for ingress and egress to my home. And I just think 4 years is quite a long time. I'm fascinated that the last time, the light rail, which was a big project, but it all took place in the Rose Theatre. It was very public, the meeting. I just find it very interesting that I haven't heard about this to the same degree.
Margaret,
What-
I don't want to cut you off, but your comments this evening are important comments. They're not related to the application that is before us, but if you've left your name and contact
I have.
information, I'm sure that we would be happy to have somebody from Public Works contact you to discuss that issue and provide you the kind of details and assurances
Thank
that you need.
I
Okay?
love the university.
Another question on that topic. Was there notification or information passed out to the residents in this area about this revamping of downtown Brampton? I live there
Yes.
too. I've seen nothing. I found out 4 weeks ago.
Did you sign in?
Yes.
Because do we have your name and contact information?
yeah.
Because I live on Archibald and I got notices on my street for it. I know
We've
that
checked our residents
we
up
all
and down
did.
Chapel. Nobody's received anything.
That's interesting, because it was quite broadly publicized, advertised with messaging going out, so.
In the newspapers and...
It was quite a robust communication strategy, and I know that staff would really welcome the opportunity to go over those details
And we
with
would
you.
too.
And because it's important as downtown residents that you have the reassurance that the project as it proceeds has as minimum an impact on you as possible.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks.
If you could state your name for the public record, Mr. Bailey?
Yes.
Thank
Hello,
you.
my name is Peter Bailey, and I'm a resident at 9 George Street North. I serve on the board of that condominium. My concern, and one of our concerns in that building, is the public parking across the street, and how it's going to be affected. When they built 9 George, they were very limited as to how they could construct the building as far as parking and the underground, because it was still the flood plain was still an issue there. So a lot of our tenants, not tenants but residents, utilize that parking space, and especially on weekends and when they have visitors and that type of thing. So I'm just concerned how that's going to be affected. And my other concern is the intersection of Mill Street and the railway tracks. It's a level crossing. Is it going to remain a level crossing? I can see a lot of activity going on and increased transit and vehicles. Is there any plans incorporated into this whole thing for a underpass at that level crossing? I know that's a big expense, but I think if there's going to be traffic congestion everywhere else, and all of a sudden you can't get up, Mill Street because of a freight train going by, or 2 freight trains and GO trains, that's going to cause some concerns.
Great, thank
Okay.
you. And I
Sure.
just want to assure all of the delegates this evening on whichever public meeting you're here to speak on, that all of your comments will be captured and responded to in the final staff report that comes forward. And if you think of something after you leave here this evening, by all means, you're free to send in email comments or contact staff with some things that you would like to see addressed in the report.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Do any members of committee have questions of staff for clarification only regarding this proposal? Councillor Medeiros.
Thank you, through the chair. I guess the staff on some of the comments about existing properties outside. That's something that we're still under review. And what if you can just talk to us a little bit about the process and how you ensure that some of these properties might be included within that university zone or designated area.
So through you, Madam Chair. So with respect to the area that is subject to the application for the rezoning for the addition of the university uses, the area is coincidental with the mixed use designation from the secondary plan. So it was instrumental for staff to apply this area for the rezoning application, given that the secondary plan, the policy for the area already contemplates a wide range of uses, including major institutional uses. And knowing that Ryerson and Sheridan together really need a resolution and zoning permissions applied to their preferred site, within a fairly quick time frame, we wanted to be able to satisfy that and also allow for an expansion to occur in the future as well, and to really proceed in a way that would allow for it to be dealt with modestly quickly. It made sense to staff to apply it to that area in particular, where policy already contemplates the use. To comment on growing the area to include other properties outside of that mixed-use designation from the policy, it would add on a layer of complexity and analysis that would have to occur in that the current policy for those areas doesn't contemplate that use right now. So it's a larger policy land use change that staff would have to look at. And so for those reasons, we chose to apply the area as we've identified here, which is again coincidental with that designation in particular. Staff, could really at the request of council look to grow the area to allow a university use on those other lands as well. But at this point in time, we wouldn't suggest that occur, just given the additional rigor that would have to occur with that type of application. But we would recommend that an exercise of that sort, if council is going to direct that it be applied separate than this initiative here.
Through the chair, thank you for the explanation. But if we were to look at, I guess the first delegation was this red piece of land, and I guess the other delegation regarding a parking lot, which seems to sit out of that. How much, in terms of time, and how complex would it be, and how would that hamper the timelines? Would that stop the timelines?
Through Madam Chair, just with respect to growing the boundary to include the DPS, the Development Permit System area, as shown in red on the graphic in front of us, it's difficult to say exactly how much time it would add to the process, but changing or really involving an official plan amendment really is a significant level of rigor that would be applied to any application over and beyond a zoning bylaw amendment exclusively. So I would say that it could be as much as several or more months that would be appropriate and necessary to apply that level of analysis if we were growing the area and including an official plan amendment as well. With respect to the other piece of the question, Councillor Medeiros, that you've made just with respect to the parking area across from 9 George Street, that is an area that is contained within our zoning bylaw amendment proposed area. Now, the matter of parking isn't really being addressed really through this initiative, in that at a later site plan process application, that we will be working on with Ryerson for their preferred site and any other future expansion site plan that we could be working with them on as well. That level of detail on parking and various other matters would be looked at. But this matter here, this rezoning, is simply to add the use and to not change any of the other performance standards associated with the zone. So we're not changing setbacks or height or density or any of that. It's simply to allow the use itself, and that is it.
And through the chair, I thank you. And there's also, I think Ms. Nava talked about, was that the one that was where the old shoe factory is? Because that sits outside. Was that the one that we were just talking about? My concern is just that, again, I don't know these properties in detail, but when you see the proximity, you know, for me, if it's going to take a couple months, but it's about getting it right. And I think.
Councilor Medeiros, you're getting into the substance. Staff will evaluate and bring the report back. You asked a question around adding additional properties, and I think the response is that they've identified properties that this is simply adding a permission, that it's there pretty much as of right, wouldn't require an OPA at this point. Anything else requires much more in-depth or complex study. So that would be a separate piece of it.
Sure.
Staff will respond to this in their staff report, and I think at that time we can debate it.
Okay, so, and through the chair, because I heard that you would require direction to look at those properties which were just outlined here, to look at it, that won't be considered in the report. I'd like to move.
Could you state your point of order, Councillor Palacio?
What's the point of
please?
order?
We're getting into, this is a public meeting.
I understand it's a public meeting.
I've raised
It's a point of order.
Then state what your public order,
Yeah, I'm
your
trying
point
to.
of order is.
This is a public meeting. We're getting into, I feel, I agree with you, Councilor Medeiros, but we're getting into that staff direction. I think staff's already provided a response that maybe shouldn't have been provided, but this is an opportunity to hear the residents. Staff will be coming back with a further report where we'll have an opportunity to provide the direction if we need to at that time and not now.
I think what Councillor Medeiros is seeking clarification on what is the right process to have staff look at other properties that require more in-depth. What is the process that would be followed? Is it council direction or motion? Is it something that would be a recommendation in the report? I see that as what Councillor Medeiros' question is. What is clarification around the process to deal with those other properties? Not specifically about them, but how do we add properties that are outside of what staff have identified as the shortest, most direct route?
So you're directing staff.
No, he's not directing staff. He's seeking clarification on what the process might be.
When that report comes back, it's
Well,
like
maybe
every
that's
other
the
report we
answer.
deal
We'll
with
give
in public.
staff an opportunity to answer. Is that the point in time when that recommendation would be made, or can it be done prior to that? I'm going to give the commissioner an opportunity to respond.
Through you, Madam Chair, I think the most appropriate approach to add or subtract properties would be when the report comes back for a recommendation. At that point, there's nothing that would preclude other lands from going through another process separate from this. The point that staff made earlier was that these boundaries that have been identified already include things like technical schools. So the addition of a university is a very modest amendment to the zoning that's already in place. Other lands outside of this, it might not be so straightforward, so we want to assess those. I think doing that through a separate process would be fine. I think we've got a long-term strategy around the university that's not having to happen overnight. Bringing the lands that we know to be the first stage of the university are really important and paramount today. That does not preclude additional zoning or OPA amendments that might be required at some other future point in time.
Does that answer your question, Councillor Medeiros?
See, through the chair, so in terms of timelines for the report, we expect something in September?
Through the chair, we don't anticipate to bring this back by September.
Okay.
Probably into the new year, but the goal really was to work in parallel with the development plans of Ryerson to make sure that there are no hurdles that have to be addressed and would hold the project up later.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other questions from members of council of clarification? Seeing none. I see another delegate there, and I don't want anybody to go home not having the opportunity to speak, so if you could come forward, state your name for the public record, please.
Rose O'Reilly, Ward 1. And I welcome the university. I think it sounds good so far. I was just looking at the map, so I might be outside of what this meeting is talking about, but the Riverwalk, I'm wondering, does that affect the plans for the university? And then the other question I had, or should we do one at a time?
You can ask your questions. I'm not sure you're going to get answers
Oh, that's
this
what I'm
evening.
wondering
They'll
too.
be
I
in the
don't know
staff
if I'm
report,
going to get an
so-
answer, but that's okay. I can be on the mailing list. The other one was across from the bus stop, there are some buildings there that, on Nelson Street. And somebody was telling me on the way up that those are going to be perhaps used for other uses, which I personally would welcome. I don't know if that's the case, but.
They are properties owned by the city of Brampton,
Okay, so they could be.
and they're within the boundaries.
Okay, all right, thank you.
So at this time, I'll accept a motion to approve the staff report, receive the delegations, and the added correspondence for this evening. Councillor Gibson, did you wish to do that? All in favor? That's carried. We got through the first one. The next item is I'll just give a few minutes if people want to leave. The next item is item 4.2. We didn't have anybody at the time wish to speak on this. If the applicant is here this evening, you're the applicant. Did you wish to make a presentation even though there's no registered delegates? Okay. I'm just going to give people an opportunity to maybe move out and in. Mr. Fay, I'm just confirming that he doesn't hear me. Okay. Okay, the next item is 4.2, and I believe the clerk has confirmed that nobody is in attendance that wishes to see a delegation or speak on this item. If I'm wrong, put your hand up in the air. Let the record show that nobody attended this evening who wished to see a presentation or delegate. I'll now give the applicant an opportunity to decide whether they or not they want to make a presentation. Okay. Thank you very much. Let the record show that the applicant declined the opportunity to make a submission to committee on this matter. Do any members of committee have questions on this application? Councillor Medeiros, you're still on the board. Okay, thank you. Seeing none, then I will ask for a motion to approve the report. Someone like to move it? Councillor Willens? All those in favor? That's carried. And Mr. Clerk, Madam Clerk, we had no added correspondence on that 4.2 this evening, just confirming. Okay. The next item on the agenda is item 4.3. It is an application to amend the official plan, zoning bylaw, and proposed draft plan of subdivision to reduce the size of the existing commercial zoned land by adding a new street with residential uses and revising the permissions for the commercial zone. The applicant is KLM Planning Partners Incorporated on behalf of 248-4228 Ontario Limited, the southwest corner of Mayfield and McVean Drive in Ward 10. Does the Okay, I have to go to another page here, so bear with me. This is crazy. Okay, so at this point, I would like to welcome Alistair Shields from KLM. Welcome, Alistair. If you'd like to do your presentation, that would be appreciated. Welcome. Is it not working?
No. There we go.
Oh, there you
Nope.
go.
More taxes for battery.
There we go. Good evening, Madam Chair and members of committee and members of the public. My name is Alistair Shields from KLM Planning Partners, Inc. We're the agent on behalf of the applicant. Just want to give a brief overview of the proposed development. We have 3 applications submitted to the city for official plan amendment. The official plan amendment is to redesignate a portion of the lands to permit residential use. We'll propose to redesignate it to low-density residential. We also have a zoning bylaw amendment application to add some additional permitted uses for the commercial portion of the site, as well as site-specific requirements for both the commercial and the residential portion. And finally, we have a draft plan application that would create the commercial block that is approximately 2.45 hectares or 6 acres. There's also 27 single-detached residential lots with a minimum frontage of 12.2 meters. Those would all gain their frontage and access from a public cul-de-sac. There's also a parkette block proposed, which would provide connection for pedestrians from the cul-de-sac to the commercial block, as well as there are 2 buffer blocks. Now I just want to speak quickly about some of the concerns that were raised in the report. So firstly, there's a concern about only one drive-through being permitted on the site. Just for the record, we do not agree that the proposed car wash should be considered a drive-through. We see it as we are proposing one building with a drive-through, and there's a gas bar with a car wash. And we don't believe it should be considered a drive-through based on the city's own definition of a drive-through. Regarding concern number 2, the orientation of the single attached dwellings backing onto the commercial block, that is what was previously proposed, so we're not changing that, and we feel that we're providing a better connection with the parkette block at the north end of the proposed street. That will provide pedestrian access from that street to the commercial block. The next concern regards the laneway on the east side of the commercial block. There's concerns about traffic through there. There will be a separate site plan application for the commercial block. Any concerns related to that can be addressed through that. Any matter of traffic calming can be addressed through the site plan application. And then finally, regarding the gas bar proposed at the corner of Mayfield and McVean not being in accordance with the gateway policies. The gateway policies of the secondary plan permit a gas station there, so long as that they meet the gateway beautification policies. And again, similar to the traffic concern, that can be dealt with through the site plan application, which will follow. And then I just want to touch on some of the residents' concerns that we have received so far. From what I understand, the main concern is the reduction in the commercial plaza. And I just want to be clear that we're not proposing to remove any permitted uses. So anything that's permitted on this site, we're keeping. We're adding some additional permitted uses to provide additional flexibility. It'll just be the scale of the commercial block that is reduced. There's still going to be approximately 50,000 square feet of commercial GFA with a range of commercial uses.
Thank you very much, Alistair. I'd now like to invite Shelby Swinfield, Development Planner with the City of Brampton.
Hello, Madam Chair, committee
Shelby.
members and members of the public. I'm Shelby Swinfield, and I'm here tonight to speak to this application as I'm the development planner currently managing the review of this application. For a bit of context, the property is located at the southwest corner of Mayfield and McVean. I do have some slides to go with it. Here we go. So within the official plan, the property is designated as residential within Schedule A and neighborhood retail within Schedule A2. And the residential designation permits a broad range of housing as well as some commercial uses. Within the secondary plan, the property is designated as neighborhood retail and gateways, and that secondary plan is the Vales of Humber Secondary Plan Area Number 50. Permitted uses within the neighborhood retail include small-scale retail stores, supermarkets, pharmacies, restaurants, and service commercial establishments. An amendment to the secondary plan is required for this proposal. Additionally, within the Vales of Humber 50-2 block plan, this property is shown as neighborhood retail, and an amendment to that block plan is required for this proposal as well. In regard to zoning, the property is currently zoned with a site-specific commercial 2 zone that permits a range of commercial uses. These include things such as a supermarket, a personal service shop, various types of restaurant uses, a health or fitness center, among some others, as well as a day nursery, and it has site-specific standards, one of which limits the provision of drive-throughs on the property to only 1. A zoning bylaw amendment is required for this application in order to facilitate the proposed residential development, to amend the commercial zone permissions, to permit the additional uses and the additional driveway. The applicant has submitted various studies in support of the application, including a commercial land use study and a traffic impact study, among others, and those studies are currently subject to technical review, which is currently ongoing. To date, we have identified some issues with the application that the applicant did speak to tonight. So just to kind of re-summarize those for you, some of the issues that will be looked at through this technical review include, is a reduction to the size of the commercial site appropriate to satisfy the demands of the community? Staff will also be reviewing the appropriateness of permitting more than 1 drive-through on the site. We'll also be looking at whether the orientation of the single detached dwellings is appropriate, as it reduces connectivity between the 2 land uses. There are also concerns that have been raised regarding that laneway, that it may be used as general traffic through the plaza to avoid the intersection. And the location of the proposed gas bar at the corner of McVean and Mayfield is in conflict with the gateway's secondary plan, which required that these gateway intersections create more of a sense of entrance and arrival into the neighborhood. So going forward, I will continue to have carriage of this file. And we will be considering all comments that we receive both from the public and our technical experts. At a future point in time, I will be bringing forward a recommendation report for the consideration of the Planning and Development Committee and Council. The report will include a discussion on any comments that we've received from the public. All members of the public that provide their contact information for this application will be advised when that recommendation report goes forward. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. I'd now like to invite Jotvinder Sodhi as a registered delegate on this item. If anybody else wishes to speak on this item, can I ask you to sign in and line up over where Risha, if you could wave? If you could sign up over there. And then you can speak following Mr. Sodhi, who's a registered delegate this evening.
Yes, please.
Welcome, Mr.
Please
Sodhi.
sign, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Sodhi, if you could state your name for the public record, and you have 5 minutes. There is a clock, I think, is there a clock in front of you that maybe you could keep track? There's on-
Madam Chair, thank you very much. I think a clock is only for me.
No, everybody has a clock, trust me.
We are taxpayers. I think you should give us a little bit leverage to speak a minute and a half extra if needed. And time is not started yet.
Mr.
please.
Sodi, we have 5 public meetings this evening.
Yes,
I'm
public
going-
is outside. I agree.
understand.
And it's unfortunate, it's very
Mr.
shameful
Sodi,
that public is sitting outside.
Mr. Sodi, I'm going to start the clock. Thank you.
Yes, my name is Jatvinder Sodi. I'm here today to talk about the plaza. You can see the picture here. Beautiful. There is a recreation center, there is a pharmacy, stores, big box stores. And what we are hearing today is city cannot bring a big box store in one small plaza. How we expect this city will be working hard or will bring the more employment to the rest of the city, Brampton. This is unfortunate situation and has to be addressed. This is not only one plaza, Cottrell and McQueen. Another issue, we need to address this city, stop making housing and sleep city in the houses. This is a proposal. You could see it, City of Brampton must deny this builder proposal. Developer made millions. We were told to when houses of $1 million plus sold. This is the plan we were shown by the developer. This is the plan, city approved it. What we are doing today is this is the plan. Is a corner store. We have already on Galway corner store. There is another Galway and Mayfield. There is a corner store. Countryside and Galway there is a corner store. Every intersection, small intersection, we have corner store. We don't need any more corner stores. We need a big box stores that will give us employment to our youth, as well as it's a commuting issue. Then traffic and Mayfield and Gore, Mayfield and Clark Way. There is no left turn lane. There is no right merging lane. $4 million coming to the city from that particular subdivision. Our councillors are well aware. They should have raised these issues ahead of time before us because they are being paid by the tax dollars to serve the community, serve the constituents, serve the residents. The city, 9th largest city, population expected to grow 600,000. I think it's a population already more. Youth will need employment. Taxes are higher. So, health. Our priorities has been changed. We are looking to address the crime issues rather than look for the development, to look for the issues which affects more employment, healthcare. Law and order situation is worst, and we had a meeting, our mayor and our councillors attended that meeting. Crime, law and order is a priority over developing the city, bringing the more employment, bringing the more business to this city. Hospital, nobody worked. All this city has been working towards is converting the employment land to the housing industry. 200 plus acres has been transferred in the past. And I think this is the time. We have seen recently Ontario, people who don't listen, the politicians, the leaders who don't listen, wiped off. They are not even an official party status today. So we would like this city council, please look at the public concern, address those concerns, rather than helping the developers. I'm not saying who is doing what, but we need these taxpayers issues being addressed properly. Unsafe road conditions, lack of employment opportunity, higher taxes. We always talk, we have been delegating. I personally haven't received one response. Mr. Sodi, your delegation is wrong. You have not bring the right points. You did bring provincial issues to the municipal. Anything, tell me what I'm doing wrong here to bringing my delegations here, other than I've been humiliated to say that we're going to sue you. Our honorable mayor said in this council.
Mr. Sodi.
That's the point, Madam Chair. This is the frustration of whole Brampton. People were lined up. They went back.
Mr.
This
Sodi.
situation should not be there. My 5 minutes, please let me speak my part.
I'll give you an extra 10 seconds to cover what I have to say, but I would ask you please respectfully.
I'm very respectful.
Would you make your comments directed at the application that is before council and committee this evening. I understand you have other grievances. I'm going to ask you to limit your comments to the application and the concerns specifically related to this application.
We want the design and the plaza the way it is being approved. There should not be any. And also, I'm requesting a town hall meeting at the site. And we did not receive a letter. I live in the subdivision, same area. This has been only sneaked in for few residents in the area. I think our councillor, regional councillor are here. Please look into this too. How come the residents did not receive the letters? How come this issue has not been addressed? How come they did not raise a flag earlier with the constituents, with the residents in the riding in their 9 and 10 ward? These are the serious concerns. And at any point, every point, I'm a taxpayer. I'm one of those thousands of taxpayers. I'm speaking not only my behalf, I'm speaking on a homeowners welfare association, which has been representing thousands of residents.
Thank you, Mr. Sodi. I've given you 15 extra seconds. I appreciate your delegation.
I really thank you very much.
Thank you.
Wish you good luck for your retirement.
Thank you very much. Would our next registered delegate like to come forward, please? And if you could state your name for the public record. And if I could ask you, please, to limit your comments to the application and your concerns specifically about the application that's before us this evening. Thank you and welcome.
Good evening, Madam Chair and everybody. My name is Ajit Singh Bawa, and I'm a resident of 31 Fanning Trail, which is very close to Plaza. And my issue is also same, downsizing the Plaza and adding some more residential area. The reason is this size of Plaza was shown right in the beginning, as we have already seen. And the people that time, that residential area was built. Much more residential area is being built even west of McQueen and even further Gordon and that street. That area is coming. Those people have not got this notice when they are equally concerned. In addition, more residential areas are coming. I know there are some single residential area with big lots, and they are also, I've seen the notice, and more residential units are coming up there. The reason of our coming up here is there are more and more residential units are coming, and Plaza, which is going to feed all of those area, is going downsized, which we object. And with respect to this, we have a signed petition of that area. We'll be submitting you right now. I have written 186 members here. Maybe some people have more numbers. I will submit it here. And one more thing before I say bye. The nearest, if we look from the Plaza point of view, look on the west side, there's the nearest place is 7 kilometers away. If we look to the south side, nearest place is 10 kilometers away where we can go and buy our stuff. And if you look on the east side, there's none. Keeping all these points and such a big residential area, I think it can be taken care of only if it comes as a full-size plaza, and they should provide more offices, and so that everybody is benefited, and they don't have to go buy and get their services done elsewhere far away. And with these words, I'll say thank you very much for giving me the time. And here's a copy.
Thank you very much. The clerk will take that. I know that we have had a number of signatures on a petition that were pre-circulated. I'm going to assume that the ones that you have, we don't have yet. But thank you very much.
Okay.
If you could hand them to the clerk.
Very much.
Thank you. Would our next delegate like to come forward and state their name for the public record? Hello and welcome.
Hello.
You have 5 minutes.
Okay, thanks. Thanks for giving me the opportunity to speak here today. I'm the resident that live in the area, And the reason I moved in the area, because thinking there's gonna be a mall there, just the way I see it, and I'm opposed to the new plan. So because being fit, I'm a diabetic. So I need to have a facility where I can exercise. So I don't want this housing going on here. Plus, as far as my associate, my friend, colleague spoke, that we don't have a grocery store nearby. We have to have a grocery store where people can, get a job and work close by, as opposed to having houses. We got tons of houses here. It makes no, we're driving people out of Brampton because they don't have any jobs. It doesn't serve the purpose. Builders can make money anywhere else. Why do they have to make money in where we live? They can go to Caledon, they can go somewhere else. I'm sure they, So my concern is I'm opposed to that, so this is what I have to say.
Thank you. Can I ask you to state your name for the public record, please?
Last name's Kaler, first name's Commander. I think John is familiar with my name.
Great, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Would the next delegate like to come forward? Hello and welcome. If you could state your name, and you have 5 minutes. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Himad Daliwal, and I'm resident of same area and live at 11 Dinosaur Street. So basically, I'm trying to reiterate what other people said, because at the time when we bought this, our houses, it was stated that plaza will be look like this, and we bought based on that. We have children, we want they to go to the right places, which is it's supposed to be built there, but now everything is getting changed. So it seems something is get compromised. So compromise means in terms of if you reduce the size and if you say you have a small bits and pieces there with the same name and definition, it won't work. We want the same size of plaza, and if anything you want, if city want to go with the builder, I believe that's the next step. We have city should let us know the what next steps, how we can chase the builder and fight for our rights. Because this whole community, if you look at that all around, and if you see the holistic picture of it, not even our area, there are tons of houses are coming, and nowhere we have a big plaza, or you can say big box, grocery stores or big box fitness centers. We might have Anytime Fitness Mall, and if compared to LA Fitness or Good Life Fitness, it might be bigger, right? So we are looking for a bigger one, not the smaller one. So we will definitely going to fight. If we fail here, we will fight at the next level. So please help us as being our representative. We want everybody should stand with the residents, not with the builders. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yeah, sure. Would the next delegate like to come forward? And I just want to remind all those who are delegating this evening, you may not have been at the room during the previous delegations, but every comment that is offered this evening through the public delegation process will be responded to in the staff report when it comes back. If you didn't want to speak this evening, but you go home and you decide that there's some questions that you have, by all means, please email staff, and it will be captured as part of the public record and responded to in the report. So this evening, there'll be no comments or questions or debate that will be answered, but it will be coming forward in the staff report. And if you've signed in, then we'll make sure that you are notified directly, but there'll be public notification of when it comes forward. So, sir, have you signed in?
Yes, I did.
Could you state your name for the record,
Yes, my name
please?
is Tuan Nguyen. I moved into that division last year, and I bought it 2 years ago. The reason I bought that, because I look at the plan and I think that it's fit for my family. And the reason I'm willing to pay a very high amount of property tax, because I know that the money that I pay, it deserves the way that I'm going to live there. But now everything changed. So as the previous gentleman have mentioned that everything reduced, like now we don't even have a facility to do exercise, right? You imagine that, you work 10 hours a day and you want to find something to do exercise and it's not there anymore. You want to go there to do the grocery because, nearby. As the previous gentleman said that we have to travel down to Bouvert, or even west to the, I believe that nearby Highway 410 in order to have a shopping center. So this is the affect the quality of life, it's not even the way of life, but the quality of life, which we will affect our ability to pay tax to all different level of the government. So I hope that, on behalf, we vote you in because we believe that you will work on our behalf, because we, that's what we believe in, and I hope that you will do the best to, to be on our side. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And have a good day.
You too. Are there any more delegations on this item this evening? Would you like to come? No, you've already spoken. Don't
I
try
have
to
400
sneak.
petitions
Don't
too.
try to sneak in there again.
I'm going to ask a question, right?
No, you don't get to ask a
400 petitions, I
question.
missed that part.
If you
We
miss
have
them,
submitted 400 petitions. I think that was not acknowledged.
it has been circulated to members of council. We all received a copy of it. Thank you.
These are additional, Mr. Bawa has.
So, are there any other delegations this evening? Seeing none. Do any members of council have questions of staff for clarification only on this proposal? Councillor Dillon.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just wanted to, for clarification, if the clerk, can you put that slide up? So perhaps if the clerk can explain the process, because I think just from some of the comments that we have here today, we're not necessarily making a decision now. We're going to be making a decision when the report comes back, and so I guess I'll just explain it. First was the submission of the proposal, and we're at the public meeting portion of it, and Councilor Moore had explained that this is an opportunity for you to give your input and suggestions, and when the time comes for the report, that's when councilors can engage in debate. So today's just for you. If you have comments, what you can do is submit it to Councilor Spoveri and I, and we'll direct them to staff, or you can email them directly to staff as well. So I just wanted to clarify that with everybody, and I appreciate everybody coming in today and showing your concern. So I have just a couple of questions for staff. Similar to other areas where there's been debate over changing from one use to another. For example, Inspire and Dixie, does this have any special significance, or in terms of what its use is, or do you guys look at everything the same or differently?
So through you, Madam Chair, the question with respect to the land use change that's proposed here, and does staff look at land use changes of this type the same consistently across the city? Everything is context sensitive. We do have to always have regard for the application at hand with us and understand that the policies that relate to that area of the city in particular, the issues that we see as presenting themselves for that subject site as well. Everything is, every property really within the city for various reasons does have a site-specific context to it. I can say that the land use change that is proposed with this application from commercial to residential, in this case, it is a significant change that we can say. And we do know that the commercial site that is currently designated for this subject property at Mayfield and McVean, that it is a use which would lend itself to really being a focal point of the community. And so we will be reviewing this application in a technical way with all the studies that are submitted with it to understand whether ultimately staff are able to support the application or not. And we will obviously have to have a particular amount of rigor that will apply to our review of all those studies and the issues and policies in advance of providing a response back to committee and council with the recommendations.
So just again, for the purpose of, I guess, informing the residents, from this point, how long does it usually take for this actual staff report to come back? and for council to make a decision? Roughly how many months, weeks?
So generally, through you, Madam Chair, I can state that with a zoning bylaw amendment and official plan amendment and plan of subdivision as we do have here, between this point in time, really, which is fairly early in the development application process, it will be a number of months, and I could generally anticipate that it'll be sometime perhaps mid next year before we, in the earliest, would be able to come back with a report to recommend through to committee and council our recommendations on this application. I really cannot confirm at this point in time really when that will be exactly, but I can generally state that it'll be a number of months, yes.
Thanks. And just a question to the chair. Are we able to ask questions to the planner?
No.
No, or clarification?
Well, if it's a question of clarification on the application only, but not getting into the specifics.
So the question I have, perhaps if you can let me know if it's appropriate, is if there's a particular reason why the plan has changed now
Well, I think,
to the planner.
well, the plan has not changed. Anybody who owns property in the city of Brampton has the ability to apply to rezone their property, and we have an obligation to receive that request and to evaluate it against the official plan, the secondary plans, and the vision for the area.
Right.
So everybody has the right to do that.
Right.
So to the applicant, I don't know whether you want to answer the question of why you're bringing this forward, but I'm not sure that it's relevant.
Well, we just want to know
staff.
what has changed where I guess the community felt something was coming. And I guess some of them want to know why there's been a change now in the application.
Through you, Madam Chair. Yeah, just, I guess to clarify, the applicant for this rezoning and site, or official plan amendment was not the same developer that did the overall subdivision. So, I mean, the lands were designated as neighborhood retail through the city's process, and as the chair had said, it's within my applicant's right to file an application to try and change that, and whether we're successful or not is not up to us.
So you don't need to give a reason, I guess. Fair enough. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Medeiros.
Thank you, through the chair. I guess to staff, and not getting into specifics of a lot of the comments from delegations, but really about the quality of life regarding these new developments. And we passed the Vision 2040. There's a lot of guiding principles there. Will we be looking at this application holistically to ensure, notwithstanding from a technical perspective, but certainly what we want to do as a city to be able to walk out of your house, find transit, be able to go shop and so on. Will that be applied rigorously? Because I think this council was very strong in sending that signal that we want healthy communities and a community with new type of development.
Through the chair, absolutely, staff will be looking at it through that perspective. Recently, council supported staff in applying our sustainability guidelines on new applications. We'll apply the goals of the planning vision against this when we bring a recommendation report back, and those are very important elements in terms of the healthiness of the community, the needs of the adjacent lands, and how this fits into the overall goals of the community vision.
Great, thank you.
Okay. Councillor Sprovieri.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just for when the report comes back, if you can let us know whether the original proposed plaza was a staff-initiated request, or whether it was the original developers' proposed uses, and also if we can also be told what the original developer their expectation was that this plaza would be attracting and what has been in the revised size. So we need to know if they were planning to have like different uses, and if the number of uses have been cut down because of the size has been cut down. So we need that information when it comes back. Through the chair. Okay?
Through the chair, our background report will provide a fair bit of detail on the original plan.
Because I do believe that it was the original developer who actually proposed the plaza as it was originally designed. That's important for us to know, whether that was a staff initiated idea or whether it was a developer's idea. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Sprovieri, would you like to move approval of the staff report, receipt of the delegations, and the correspondence and
Certainly.
petitions this evening?
Yeah.
Thank you. All those in favor? That's carried. I'm going to wait a few moments before I move to item 4.4 to give anybody who wishes to leave the room this evening so that other folks can come in. It's kind of like the shift change at the Chrysler plant.
I'll go back out there.
Okay.
In addition to 4.4, there's some additional correspondence. We'll receive it.
Thank you. What's that? Okay, everybody in and seated. We're now on item 4.4. Under the statutory public meeting, it's a proposal submission by Michael Vanny and Martin Karkupam. If I've mispronounced that, I apologize. From Weston Consulting, although I do see Mark Emery there. That would have been a lot easier to pronounce, Mark. Followed by a staff presentation by Stephen Dykstra, a development planner for the city of Brampton. I guess, Mark, you're going to start off the presentations this evening? Thank you.
Members of committee. I think I'm on.
You are.
It's Mark Emery here from Weston on behalf of 212-8743 Ontario Inc. for the combined lots comprised of 1265, 1279, 1303, and 1323 Wanless Drive, which is located on the south side of Wanless between Credit View Road and Chingakuzi Road. These four remnant lots comprise a total of 1.72 hectares or 4.25 acres and are designated residential within the City of Brampton official plan. The official plan, which as we all know provides overall direction for new growth, permits a range of dwelling types including single detached homes and townhomes. The Fletcher's Meadow secondary plan further designates the area as low-density residential and contains some policies that state the lots shall be oriented and accessed by a collector local road and that properties abutting existing residential shall be compatible with the existing built form. The zoning, which is on the screen right now, is agricultural, and it's important to point out on that zoning map that the road pattern for the area, which was designed previously as part of the overall block plan, was designed to anticipate development of these 4 remnant lots from a connection to Tree Grove Crescent. You can see a gray block parallel to Wanless. That is the proposed connection to these lots. And so the proposal before you tonight is for a plan of subdivision and a zoning bylaw amendment to create a new street running east from Tree Grove, terminating in a cul-de-sac, to provide for 50 freehold townhouse units and 6 single detached lots. The 6 detached lots back onto the existing detached lots at both the east and west end of the site, as you can see. The plan also provides for a pedestrian connection to Wanless. Therefore, there are 2 new zones being proposed. R3E 5.5 is the zone that allows the towns, and the R1F10 zone allows for the single detached lots at each end of the cul-de-sac. It is our view that the proposed development better achieves the objectives of the provincial growth plan than the current as-built condition by providing the appropriate intensification along a major arterial road. We have carefully reviewed the information report prepared by staff dated June 21st, 2018, and have the following comments. First off, was identified was the environmental buffer. An environmental impact study has been submitted in support of the application. We have met with the city and the Credit Valley Conservation Authority to discuss and review the buffer requirements, and have another meeting with CVCA scheduled for tomorrow, actually. We believe that the 10-meter buffer area can be provided, and this can coincide with improvements to the woodlot to the south, the Petal woodlot, to accommodate new plantings of trees, which have been substantially decimated by emerald ash borer. The revised EIS will be presented to the city very shortly. The proposed cul-de-sac, we've discussed the cul-de-sac design with transportation engineering staff, who, in an email dated June 21st, 2017, before we submitted the application, accepted the configuration and design. This is through Mr. Brad Hale, who's no longer with the city. The extension of Tree Grove also allows for the removal of the 4 current accesses onto Wanless, which is consistent with secondary plan policy. We understand that a new comment on the cul-de-sac was released only today, and we'll be taking a closer look at it. The townhouse design. So we've met with urban design staff prior to the submission in 2017 as well, and felt that reverse frontages along Wanless would allow for an enhanced and consistent streetscape. We understand urban design staff have provided more detailed comments as of this week, and we are comfortable that we can accommodate their request through detailed design revisions. The townhouse widths of 4.5 to 5.5 meters, which is 15 to 18 feet, is consistent with other developments throughout the city, and more particularly directly north of Wanless. Sustainability development guidelines, there was a point raised on that, and we're confident we can meet the threshold score of the city. We're prepared to demonstrate how we'll meet that score through additional tree planting and trail enhancements along Wanless, and through the enhancement of the woodlot. So just to wrap up, I just want to point out that we're working very closely with staff and very carefully to address each of the initial issues that have been identified in the report. And we're confident that we either already have or will shortly be addressing these issues to the satisfaction of city staff. I met a number of members of the public downstairs in advance of this meeting, and I look forward to hearing from them as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mark. I'd like to now invite Stephen Dykstra, Development Planner with the City of Brampton. Welcome, Stephen.
Good evening, Chair, Madam Chair, committee members, and members of the public. My name is Stephen Dykstra, and I'm a development planner here at the City of Brampton, and I'm responsible for managing and reviewing this particular application to amend the zoning bylaw and draft plan of subdivision to permit a residential development. I'll be speaking to the technical aspects of the proposal and the next steps in the planning process. The subject land is located south of Wanless Road, approximately between Chinguacousy Road and Credit View Road. The site currently includes single detached dwellings with associated accessory structures, and it's located within Fletcher's Meadow Secondary Plan Area 44. The application
It's temperamental, sorry.
Okay.
Got it?
That's where it is.
Okay.
The application proposes 50 townhouse units and 6 single detached dwellings and a local road. There we go. The official plan states that this area is designated residential on Schedule A and the general land use designations in the city's official plan. The secondary plan, which is Fletcher's Meadow Secondary Plan, identifies this area as low-density residential. It should be noted that an amendment to the secondary plan is not required for this application. The zoning, the lands are zoned agriculture by Bylaw 270-2004 as amended. An amendment to the zoning bylaw is required to permit the proposed use. Current issues. So there are a number of identified current issues as indicated by the applicant. Staff will review the plan for compliance regarding environmental buffers for woodlot and/or the PSW, the provincially significant wetland. It is noted that at this time that the lands are located directly north of Petal Woodlot, so that has to be taken into consideration. The proposed design of the cul-de-sac will be reviewed against the city standards. The applicant noted that there was an email and it was there has been some communication between the applicant and city staff regarding that. That will be further discussed through the review of the application. The townhouses are currently designed with reverse frontage along Wanlis and will be reviewed in conjunction with city standards and the city guidelines. The townhouses are identified currently as being 5.5 meters wide. Those two will be reviewed in conjunction with city guidelines. The townhouse units are identified as being 2.4 meters apart. Those will also be reviewed as per the minimum setback required guidelines. And the traffic impact study will be reviewed and evaluated for impacts by city staff. Finally, in our next steps, the city will be receiving comments from the public. It should be noted that we have received a number of comments from the public. Those will have to be included in our report back to council when the report is ready to go to council. And then it will be reviewed. We will also review the application to ensure that it meets the requirements of the PPS, the growth management for the Greater Golden Horseshoe, and the Region of Peel official plan. We will continue our technical review and advance to a recommendation report when this is when staff are ready to proceed.
Great, thank you very much. At this time, I'd like to invite any interested persons to come forward and provide input on this to delegate. If I could ask you first to sign in with Risha at the far side. If you could wave, Risha, there's a whole new audience here. Yeah. Anybody else who wishes to speak, if you could sign in and get in queue. And when you come forward, it's okay. Oh, he's listening. If you could state your name for the public record, and you'll have 5 minutes to make your delegation. Mr. Clerk, perhaps it's a good idea to put the slide back up that shows where we are in the process. Is it possible to do that? Great. Just for everybody here this evening, so that you can see where we are in the process when we receive an application in at the city. We're at the very beginning of the process. Good evening and welcome. If you could state your name, and you have 5 minutes.
Good evening. My name is Scott Stewart.
I live at 46 Tree Grove Crescent of the subject area in question for this application to amend the zone bylaw for 50 high-density townhouse units and 6 single-attached dwelling lots. Just last night, a neighbor of mine and I, we canvassed the residents of Tree Grove Crescent in regard to the notification that was given recently. And probably not surprisingly, we had experienced that there was a 100% opposition to the current proposed amendment. Another comment that was made was we found that many of the residents in Tree Grove and on Rambling Oak, I think it is, told us that they had not received such notification for whatever reason. We found out tonight that the policy apparently is to send notification to those within 240-meter radius of the subject area. So that seems rather small to the people that were not given notification. Given the subject lands, it would seem that probably the majority of people getting notification in that radius would be the squirrels and the raccoons and other wildlife in the protected area. So there was 100% opposition. That's probably 40 residents that we were able to canvass last night before it got a little too dark and late to bother people. The main concerns we have with the proposal, first is the fact that it is for high-density dwellings. All of the residents know that there was plan for residential in the area. Low density was what we understood it to be. So it's coming as quite a surprise at this point that it's high density. Concerns with that are many. We're worried about that it's going to tax the current infrastructure. I know that many of us have low water pressure, for instance. We're worried about increases on taxing on the sewer systems and that sort of thing. Also, with the woodlot itself being protected, we're worried about impacts on that woodlot with the wildlife, some rare wildlife. I believe there's a horned owl that's taken up residence there. There's trilliums throughout the area as well that are probably going to be damaged. Understanding that there is an environmental impact study that's been presented and will be studied, we would certainly like to be able to avail ourselves of that before any decisions are made. Parking. Citizens are concerned of the potential for overflow onto the streets. Again, I understand that there's a transportation study that's been provided by the applicant. I don't know if the city does its own independent or not. Stephen, that's not the case? We'd certainly like to see that as well. The major concern, of course, with traffic is the access from Tree Grove Crescent into the new development as the single access to these 56 dwellings. That will introduce up to an additional 50 to 100 vehicles regularly using Tree Grove Crescent. The static traffic will pose an elevated safety risk for residents, and in particular all the young children living on Tree Grove Crescent. Also potential for problems with access by city and emergency vehicles when cars are routinely parked curbside. We looked at the plan. Many of us see that it would make more sense to us, at least, for direct access. I believe you call it a window street. Direct access off of Wanless into this new subdivision. Access to from Wanless to the existing properties there already exists, and simplifying the new roadway by using this one of these existing entrances will remove increased hazard of the S-turn that's already laid out in the plan. There's no through traffic across to Wanless at that point. There are double lanes already in place. It's several of our uninformed opinion that there would not be any immediate need for any traffic lights there anyway. And as an aside, simplifying the access to the development this way would also introduce the potential for 2 additional high-value single detached 40-foot lot properties one off Tree Grove and one off Wanless without making any changes to the existing plan and construction. The second issue, I guess, is the security with the high density in the area, especially backing onto the woodlot. We would certainly like to see that addressed, studied, and the possibility of fencing, 9-foot solid fence, I believe, is what was proposed by some people in that area. I think that might be it. We have noted that there, as far as access, taking access off of Wanless, that there does seem to be precedent. Credit View has several areas where access is made to dwellings that have been put in. Also on Wanless itself at Marybrook, I believe it is. Those two areas have that kind of access without any street lights and without any turn lanes there, from what I understand. I tried it this morning myself. I drove it myself. Thank you very much for taking the time to listen to me. I appreciate hearing back from council on any decisions made.
Thank you. All
Thank
of
you
your
very much.
comments will be captured and responded to in the staff report when it comes back before council.
Thank you very much. Just one more thing. The names and the addresses of the people that objected, I have here.
Is it a petition? Have they actually signed it, or?
Their names and addresses are here.
And have they signed it? Is it a true petition?
You could call them signatures, I guess. A lot of them are.
Okay.
If you'd like to accept those.
Yeah, we'll receive that as part of the public record.
Thank you very much.
The clerk will come and get them. Thank you. And if you have any additional comments, you can always submit them to staff following tonight's meeting.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. If our next delegation would like to come forward, state your name for the public record, please. And you have 5 minutes.
Hello, my name's William John Moffat. I am in Ward 2. I'm at 14 Celestial Court, so we're just behind where this new development's going to be going in. I was talking to Scott just before this. He's on one end, I'm on the other end of the area. But the concerns are very much the same. I also went and talked to people on Celestial. They were against the idea. I don't have signatures at this point in time. I thought an email petition was more appropriate. I don't know what is most appropriate. If you can direct me for that, what would be the most appropriate, I can make sure that you get that tomorrow if that's the window that you need.
I'm going to ask staff to respond to that because individuals can just send in comments rather than, the time and effort for a petition. Okay. Individuals who are interested can send them in, but I'll ask Mr. Parsons to respond.
And that is correct. Thank you, Madam Chair. So staff is amenable to receiving information from the public really in whatever way is most convenient for themselves. So by all means, if you don't have already, staff can provide our contact information. Stephen Dykstra is really the best person to get in touch with as he's managing the file on an everyday standpoint. And perhaps it's easiest to receive an email from the interested residents in that respect. Yes.
All right, and I have received Stephen's contact information right here one more time, so thank you very kindly for that. Major concerns for us were very similar. We had environmental concerns in that we know that there is at least one family of great horned owls that are a rare species to be living in Brampton. And that have taken up nests in the area. We don't know what the impact is. The other thing was that when we moved into the area and saw the city plans had this originally zoned as agricultural, which it still is zoned agricultural. And then we realized that there were low density housing on it, so that's fine. We didn't have any objection to having low density housing there, but to move from low density housing to high density housing seems to be a bit of a stretch, and that's one of the concerns that people were having. The impact on the area, would they be able to, we'd mentioned water pressure, we'd mentioned others. We wanted to make sure that that would be applicable. The environmental study was something that we weren't aware of, that you had worked with CVC already. And we're wondering about the roadway. We've seen other areas in Brampton where high-density housing has gone into smaller areas where it's simply a two-lane road. There's no room for parking on either side. And with 50 units in such a small area, we are concerned that the parking will be somewhat of a challenge. And snow plowing certainly will be an issue. We know that there were 3 occasions this year where we couldn't get off our street in Wanless, and there's only 16 dwellings there. If there were 60 on this small street, how would they get off their street? It would be a large concern. We also agree with Scott on with the traffic coming out onto Tree Grove. It is going to be a very large challenge, especially if you consider that they would be coming off Tree Grove going straight into a traffic light. And at that traffic light, if that traffic light was red, you could have a large queue of cars in the morning, in the evening, and the like, which would make it really impossible for current residents trying to get to that intersection. Lastly, our concern was when we were looking at this original plan, that there were no proposals as to when this plan was going to move forward or how it was going to move forward. We were just told that this was a zoning meeting of sorts, but that the zoning doesn't need council's council recommendation for changing it from agricultural to low residential to mid residential to high density, which doesn't seem correct. I would think the council would need to.
The purpose of this evening's statutory public meeting is because there is a change required.
Right.
And we are obligated to go to the public and seek their input on the application that's before us. And that's what you can see on the slide ahead,
Yeah.
over my head. We are at the very beginning. The application has been filed. This is the statutory public meeting to speak to exactly the changes that are being proposed for the property.
Okay.
Okay?
All right. Well, thank you very kindly. I thank all the members who are here. I thank you, Madam Speaker, and I thank the members of the audience for listening to this proposal. Thank you.
And thank you, William John Moffett, for coming forward this evening. Do we have another speaker on this evening? Seeing, Mr. Parsons.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. So I just wanted to offer up, there was a reference from one of our speakers on this item about really an interest in receiving the background documents that are submitted in support of the application. And I just wanted to make the residents aware that city staff has recently made improvements to our process whereby each and every background study that is submitted in support of a development application, all of those studies are available on our website. And so they can be accessed at any point in time. They're available at this point in time, and you can download those in PDF and view them quite easily. So I'm just happy to announce that to the residents tonight.
Terrific. Thank you for that reminder, Mr. Parsons. Members of committee, there were 2 additional pieces of correspondence that were received just prior to this evening's meeting and weren't part of the listed additions to the agenda. So with your indulgence, if someone would like to move a motion to reopen so that we can add the 2 additional agenda items from, and I apologize if I mispronounce anybody's name, but it's Sethuraman Guru Murthy and Danielle Abella. Councillor Paleshi, you moved moved a motion to reopen the agenda. All in favor? That's carried. You'll move addition of those 2 items of correspondence. Councillor Willens, all in favor? That's carried. And the clerk will put them up on the screen if you're interested. So at this time, I'll accept a motion to approve the staff report, receive the delegations and presentations, and the correspondence. Councillor Paleshi. Question of clarification.
3, actually.
You have 3 questions of clarification.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I, for my last question, I'll bring that up forward first because, Alan, you had mentioned, and that's great news. So a lot of the questions were with respect to the environmental impact study and when they would be able to provide, to get a copy, obtain a copy to have a look at that. So can you just very simply let people know where they can get that copy if it's available to the public now?
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
If you can see, the website is here. I'm sure you can memorize that before you leave. But it is, do they need the file number when they're?
Through Madam Chair, so yes, the information is all available at this point in time. The file number is not needed. There's a description of the application that is on the website as well. While I can't describe where to click and how to click exactly right now to get you to that information, what perhaps is best to really offer at this point in time is that any resident that's interested in obtaining that information, get in touch with Mr. Stephen Dykstra, who is the city planner on the file, looking at the matter in an everyday standpoint, and then he can walk you through how to get that information. Yes, all available now. Yep.
Or maybe he can send it to them.
Through Madam Chair, yeah, while that's possible, there is some difficulty with sending larger files. I think from a technical standpoint, it is much easier for the residents to be able to click on their own computers.
I forgot we had that issue here at the City of Brampton. With respect to the PSW and the 10-meter buffer in here, it says the proposed plan of subdivision does not include an environmental buffer for the woodlot. City of Brampton policies indicate that a 30-meter buffer is required for a PSW and that a 10-meter buffer is required for an environmental feature. What about M&R and what are their policies around the provincially significant wetland and that buffer?
Through you, Madam Chair, I'm not in a position today to confirm the current policies that MNR has as it relates to setback of development to features such as those. I suspect that they're in line with city policies in that regard as well. I think that answers the question.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you.
So a question of clarification is, will it be covered in the staff report? Yes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And Madam Chair, last question through you. There is another comment in here that the townhouse is identified. Sorry, I just lost it here. Designed with reversed frontage along Wanless, which does not meet city guidelines. And I travel this area. I live not too far away, so but I recognize there's other townhouses on this road a little bit further to the east. I don't know if those townhouses are considered reverse frontage, but I just ask a question of that. It does not meet city guidelines, and in the city we have townhouses with reverse frontage, do we not?
Through Madam Chair, there are instances of townhouses with reverse frontage onto arterial roads. In this case, and maybe what I can offer is that notwithstanding that there are instances of that development type, city comments and practices are always trying to improve upon themselves, and practices and guidelines are changing and evolving, improving. So in this case, staff is going to look specifically at exactly what is proposed, how it does conform to or not the current policies that we have, design guidelines in particular, and we'll ultimately be coming back to you with a recommendation report which will specify our findings on that exactly.
Okay. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, and would you like to move approval of the staff report, receival of the delegation, the presentations, and the correspondence? All those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. And thank you, everybody, for attending on that matter this evening. The final statutory public meeting report is 4.5. So if are there folks still waiting outside to come in? While we do another shift change? We set? Great. So our final statutory public meeting report this evening is item 4.5. It is a proposal submission from Richard Domes of Gagnon Walker Domes Limited. It'll be followed by a staff presentation by Larissa Dubicki, a development planner with the City of Brampton. Welcome, Richard.
My stuff will go through this. Yeah.
Are you all set?
All set.
Great.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of committee, staff, and the public. My name is Andrew Walker. I'm a...
It says on here Richard
It
Domes,
does,
and I'm going,
yeah.
that's not Richard.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Principal planner with Gagnon Walker Domes. Unfortunately, Richard is ill this evening, so I'm stepping in his place for him. We're here tonight on behalf of Jindal Developments Limited, registered owner of 1965 to 1975 Cottrell Boulevard, and it's with respect to an application to amend the official plan and zoning bylaw to permit the development of a 3-story mixed-use commercial and residential building. The property is located at the southwest corner of Cottrell and McVean. Overall, the site measures 1.8 hectares or 4.45 acres. Phase 1 of the development constitutes the existing commercial plaza, which was approved under site plan file SP 07-055. The Phase 1 lands are 0.99 hectares or 2.45 acres. The subject application constitutes Phase 2, and the Phase 2 lands, being the remainder of the overall site, measure approximately 0.81 hectares or 2 acres with approximately 76 meters of frontage on Cottrell. I'm just gonna zip this back. Yeah. Surrounding land uses to the north is Cottrell Boulevard, beyond which is existing residential. To the east is McVean Drive, beyond which is also existing residential. As well to the south is existing residential. Also to the west, existing residential as well as parks and open space. Calderstone Middle School and other parks and open space are further to the north and the west. This slide shows a copy of the concept site plan illustrating the proposed building footprint, which is located on the western half of the overall site. As I mentioned before, the application is to develop the property with for a 3-story mixed-use commercial residential building. The building will utilize materials such as brick, stone, heavy gauge aluminum panels, and or stucco in terms of building materials. The proposals to provide approximately 2,800 square meters, or about 31,000 square feet of commercial, retail, office, daycare, and convenience restaurant. With regard to the square footage, there are a few minor differences between what's on the plans and in the staff report. They are only minor differences, and those will be worked through the normal processing of the application. It was just some moving around of some of the way that the interior of the building was demised. The application will also proposes to provide 76 residential units on the second and third floor of the building, consisting of 17 one-bedroom units, 53 two-bedroom units, and 6 three-bedroom units. The proposal will utilize the 2 existing accesses to the site, one on Cottrell Boulevard and one on McVean. And the proposal will provide 224 parking spaces, which consist of 50 surface spaces and 174 underground. And when you combine the 111 parking spaces from Phase 1, there'll be an overall total across the entire site of 335 spaces provided.
The slide here of the presentation shows the elevation rendering looking southwest from Control, and this rendering illustrates what the proposed development could look like. The access point that you see there on the plan is the existing access from Control, and that road that's in the front, sort of on the lower right-hand side as you're looking at the image, that's Control Boulevard itself. A couple of slides in the presentation showing the elevations of the proposed building. And lastly, there's some conceptual cross-sections that have been provided. And these cross-sections show three things. One, the low-rise apartment proposal adjacent to the existing residential. Secondly, the rear yard setback that's similar to or larger than what exists on the adjacent properties. And thirdly, it shows the building as being terraced in order to reduce the overlook. With that, I'll turn the presentation over to Larissa Debicki from the city to continue the portion of the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Welcome, Larissa.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of committee, members of the public. My name is Larissa Debicki, and I'm the development planner processing this application. Just for the members of the public, I wanted to note that no decision has been made on this application at this time, and the presentation today is intended to inform everyone of the proposed development. In terms of the official plan designation, the property is designated residential, and that designation permits a range of complementary uses that include commercial, institutional, and public uses, as well as residential. An amendment to the official plan is not required, and we will be undertaking an analysis of the other provisions of the official plan. In terms of the secondary plan, the property is designated neighborhood retail and low-medium density in the Bram East secondary plan, which is Area 41. And an amendment to the secondary plan is required in order to permit this proposal. I don't know if it went or not. There we go. In terms of the zoning, the property is zoned commercial, site-specific C21851 in Bylaw 270/2004 as amended. And this zone only permits commercial uses, so an amendment to the zoning bylaw will be required to facilitate the mixed-use development as proposed. Through the processing of this application, we've identified some initial issues that we will be reviewing. These issues include demonstration of the appropriate integration into the area with transition to the low-density residential neighborhood, demonstration that there is sufficient servicing capacity for the density increase, to demonstrate that the materials and treatment of the proposed development are consistent with the high-quality architectural style and surrounding subdivisions, and an evaluation of the traffic impacts. We may identify additional issues through the processing of the application. In terms of next steps, I'll continue to process the application, and we'll be considering all of the comments that we've received and any further comments that we received from the public, as well as our technical experts. If the public has any further written comments that you wish to submit, you can submit them directly to me. At a future time, we'll be preparing a recommendation report for the consideration of Planning Committee and Council. The report will include a discussion of any comments received by the public. The report will also evaluate the proposal against provincial, regional, and local policies. And all members of the public that provide their contact information for this application will be advised when the future recommendation report will be presented. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you both for your presentation. At this time, I'd like to invite any interested persons to come forward to make a delegation on this application. If I could first ask you to sign in with Risha over at the far. A lot of them have signed in. Terrific. If you could state your name for the public records, sir, and you have 5 minutes.
My name's Tony Maracci. I live at 38 Valley Side Trail. I oppose this amendment. For several reasons. One, it'll take away from the from the surrounding area as it was designed. And the building, I believe, will be too high for the area, the 3 stories. It will, there may be even parking concerns because I understand that there's existing parking there now, but at many times that parking lot is full. And it's hard to pull in there to go to even the Dairy Queen that's there. So I believe that the noise levels will increase. Right now, as it stands, come 11 o'clock, all the lights are out. There's nothing happening there. With this residential portion, there's always going to be something happening there. It's going to take away from the privacy of all the homes that surround this complex. It's going to take away their views. And I don't back onto these onto this proposal, but I would dislike going for my walk and noticing this 3-story building where there should have been only a commercial building, just like the Phase 1. I moved in that area in 2005, and till this day I was hoping that the plaza would be finished, and now they come up with a proposal of putting rental units on top of the original proposal of a mall. I call it a mall, a strip mall. It's going to impact, as far as I'm concerned, the schools, the parks, all in a negative way. Right now, there's portables at the schools. They're already filled to capacity. I don't believe that the official plan should be amended. The vision that we bought into must remain intact. Such drastic changes will alter our vision of this area. The area is surrounded by, I would say, upper scale homes. And this would be the only spot in our area that there would be rental units for housing people. And it's not just a few, it's 76 of them, which will bring in a lot of people. Transportation is probably going to be a big concern for that area. It's right at McVean, at Cottrell. The amendment that they're asking for is not minor. The lands, as far as I knew, were zoned commercial, 1 story, and not a mixed use, and must remain this way. The owner of the land knew what the lands were designated, and it should come to no surprise to see the area residents opposing this application. This is not an appropriate use for that land. This is a matter of what we expected to be built on these lands versus what we did not expect. I say no to this application together with my neighbors. Thank you so much. Have a good night.
Would the next delegate like to come forward, state your name? And you have 5 minutes. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair, for allowing me to speak on behalf of this. First thing, I oppose this, and if someone can show me the subject area map, can somebody put, because the map has an error.
The map has an error.
Yes,
Staff will find a
the
map.
vacant land map.
Will that one do?
Not this one. This is the one that is given to us. This is the one I am talking.
457 maybe?
The one attached with the notice sent to houses.
Is that the notice you received in the mail?
Yes.
Okay. Well, staff will try to find one that's the closest. Does that one help you? The one that's on there? the one
So
that-
here, so where is the, okay, the subject land here it says, it shows empty vacant land. Half of them is already built in. Can you see the building existing area in this map?
Not in the map that you've received, but we've received.
No,
it
no,
in the
not
staff
on this
report.
one. This is the one that I'm talking, the one that I can see.
Yeah.
Can you see the currently built up commercial area in this map? No.
No.
Why?
I'll let staff explain, but that is one municipal address. So it's shown as the entire subject property. It's the completion of the existing commercial that's there that I'll let staff clarify.
Yeah, and through you, Madam Chair. So you're correct as far as the reference to the property line. So what this map and the really, which is a base that was used in the creation of a map that was associated with the public notice that was sent out. What it's meant to portray through to everyone is just the property fabric. I guess really the location and the size of all the various lots that exist in the area. So as you can see, nowhere on any of the residential lots that are shown on the map is there any reference to footprints. Similarly, on the subject site, there's no footprint that's shown for the portion of it that is currently developed.
So residential occupied land is being completely marked. Here, the land occupied is not being marked. So what it looks is this big area will have only 76 units and a commercial space, which is wrong. Half of the space only of this will occupy 76 units and commercial space. Currently, the next one will come is, so this is the thing that this map represents the wrong picture of what we are doing. Secondly, just somebody said that currently there are 111 parking spots in half of the area. The new half of the area will be created with residential use will have only 50 outside parking spots. How can that be justified? There will be underground, but underground will not be for commercial purpose, and residents are going to park in that area, the outside. So the parking spots will not be sufficient. My next thing is, the area, when I moved here, the area was pretty much empty, and the east side of McQueen was completely empty, and farmland was there, agriculture use. That was built as a low density. Now, initially, from my home on Cottrell Boulevard to Queen Street, taking me maximum 4 minutes to reach. Nowadays, it takes more than 15 minutes every day. Today morning, I have pictures. When I use my GPS, it asks me to use Cottrell Boulevard instead of McQueen, because the McQueen has so much traffic now. And right now, I can see that there are probably somebody is doing traffic study, which is wrong time, because right now there is a construction on Queen Street. So most of the GPS will skip the McQueen Road right now. That's why you will not see more traffic on McQueen, because the Queen Street has a construction currently. So traffic. Whenever we are doing, is this zone change is consistent with the applicable comprehensive plan for that area? I do not understand this is meeting to the plan for this area. The other thing I said, the wrong timing for the survey of traffic. Then, this area has a conservation area surround nearby, which the conservation area means you want to keep the green space open so that the environment and other thing has less impact. Creating this high density stuff will create more problems.
Are you almost finished? You've reached 4 minutes and 45 seconds.
Let me to try. It won't finish in 5 minutes, but I will try my best. The other thing is, there is a school opposite to that area, and this area is pretty much crowded right now. What happens if once a kid dies by accident over there? Who will be responsible for this? Everyone will blame the vehicle, that who is driving will be responsible. It's not, because it's a poor planning by the city. City has not planned this area well. When I moved in, there was only 10% of houses, which has 9 times its increase right now.
I'm going to have to ask you to wrap up. If there's any additional comments, you can send them in to staff by email if you would like.
And we are doing, so I heard that previous one is Mayfield and McQueen has another development. So we are reviewing each and everything as a single entity. Are we doing a holistic review of the area that these things, what the impact with all these developments going to? Are we developing this area or destroying this area? This is not me. So many people has already left because it's too late. So somebody just told me that I am leaving because many people left for the day.
I apologize, sir. We've tried to move the agenda through as quickly as possible.
Because the
this
first
evening.
agenda, that was not much objections. We took more than 45 minutes for that one.
Sir, I'm sorry, but your time is.
And McQueen is being used as
Excuse me,
a
sir.
highway.
Your time is up. We have other delegates who are waiting to speak. You are welcome to submit your comments to staff, and they'd be happy to respond to them in the staff report. Your questions will be responded to in the staff report. I'd like to refer you to the slide over my head that says where we are in the process. An application has been filed with the city. The first step in the process is to take it to a public statutory meeting so that members of the public can offer their comments. That's what they're here for this evening. That's why you've been given the opportunity to speak. Staff will respond to all of your questions and your comments in the completed staff recommendation report when it comes back to council, which will be, as you can see on the slide, somewhere between 6 to 24 months that it takes them to evaluate the application in a holistic view as you have suggested. Your time is completed. I will ask you to respectfully. I would ask you to sign in with Risha. Then we have your information on record now, and we'll make sure that you receive notification when the recommendation report is coming back. And that is the time when council will debate the merits of the recommendation. Thank you. Have you signed in?
Yes, I did.
Can I ask you please to state your name for the public record, and you have 5 minutes.
Yes, my name
Thank
is
you.
Nisha Sandhu, and I would like to here represent my neighborhood and speak on their behalf about the amendment of the plan which was proposed as only commercial to now a mixed residential and commercial. I completely agree with the previous speaker who said right now all those points. I wouldn't like to repeat all of them. I totally agree them. I would just like to mention here that yes, we have a big objection because the privacy is directly invaded for the people who are on the Maple Valley Street, because it's going to be the stories which are built are going to be overlooked. The people, obviously they are stories, they are on a higher area, and they are going to be looking over like peeping toms everywhere, and then I don't want my child's privacy or my privacy in my backyard being invaded which was not which will not remain the same as of what we were offered at the time of when we bought the house. We were more than happy because we had all these commercial units and the pond in front of our house, a beautiful view, and so all these things are compromised now, and we are not right now in the state of mind to make those changes. We need to make changes, agreed, but it has to be on a commercial end. And also, the value of our houses is going to be dropped. We do not need high quality or high quality style homes, but we do need high safety and security. He mentioned the traffic and congestion, and here is a very good example. My child met with an accident on Cottrell. He goes to Calderstone Middle School in the morning, 8:15 a.m. He had the pedestrian right to walk, and he met with an accident. So the traffic is already there. We need to already do some things to make the traffic, control the traffic. Steps are not being taken. He had a left femur bone broken. He is still recovering. As a mother, seeing my child on that road was it was heartbreaking, and it was very unexpected. No one wants their child to be lying on the road with a broken bone, and because someone just hit them, and in the school hours. So everyone is in a rush. Everyone is stressed out. And on top of that, these 76 residents who are going to be there, we can't just assume figures or numbers here. We definitely need to be very practical on what's going to happen with all these things. Just proposing something and putting something very fancy on the plate is not going to work, because you have to see what actually the residents want. We are the people going to be living there. We are the people going to be facing those issues, and we as residents would want and request the city to please consider all these points. And also I would like to mention that the schools and the other parks, the number of kids in those schools and going to the parks is already also compromised. There are less facilities and there are more people. And there are also, because residents are growing, people are having, obviously, they are having kids, families are growing, kids want a place to play, and they don't get their turns. So already there is lack of facilities. So facilities needs to be provided. And as a previous speaker also mentioned, that there are already portables. So good facilities needs to be provided to our kids, rather than the residential units which are coming there invading our facilities. And also I would just like to mention that the upper scale homes, yes, they are there. The prices would be, prices would be affected. The value of the homes would be reduced. So no matter what, we do not want that coming in the future, because no one invests in a thing which is going to be downsized in future. So I would just like to, complete my saying here, and thank you very much to allow me to speak tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. 4 minutes and 55 seconds. You did great.
I'm going to be very quick. My name is
Thank
Michelle
you.
Morrison. I live in the neighborhood. And for all the residents live here, what we can all agree on, our neighborhood cannot sustain this development. Right now, the catchment area for Brampton has grown really large, especially for the hospitals. We have an influx of students into our school systems. We are already putting in more portables than we should. When my son was going to high school, I looked at the situation of sending him to a high school with portables or changing a religion in order to get him into a high school. And I had to change my religion in order to get him into a Catholic high school, because they did not have portable. They weren't double their capacities. And that's what's happening with Chinguacousy High School. Right now, I don't see any new high schools going into Brampton. We have one new high school and it's Catholic. But for public, we don't. Now, they're proposing a 76 housing scheme in a small parcel of an area which cannot accommodate it. Traffic is horrendous in that area. It faces a school. So traffic in and out of the school. Half our kids are being bussed in. And our neighborhood just can't sustain this. So we need to look at this and maybe look at it in detail and see what we can do for that area. But a 3-story is not a good idea for this area at all. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Michelle. Hello, if you could state your name,
Hello,
please.
councillors. My name is Kamaljit Gida. I'm a real estate broker and also work for the Ladlink Real Estate. I have very good knowledge from last 40 years. I'm in real estate. I have got a good idea what things goes on now, but I just want to bring it to your attention. People are here that already discussed the issues. I'm probably repeating the same thing again. But my main concern is that's a residential area. People spend millions of dollars to buy their houses. Then these kind of when project comes in, it's totally incompatible. It cannot be accepted by the communities. People are taxpayer. They're paying their tax. They bought their properties. They're there to live. When these kind of things happen, the value goes down and people pay the price. Same thing is, other thing is school issues. We already have enough trouble having the kids in the school. When more people come in from the more community get involved in their area, there's going to be more problems. Then again, builder, developer, they got to understand the community's needs, what exactly should happen. And other things, traffic, and like other people mentioned, that it's going to be more, it's going to get worse, then going to be more accidents, more things happens, then we all going to be feel sorry. Then my last thing is, I don't want to repeat the same thing other people did. This is totally incompatible. This community, we are all here to represent ourselves. It's not acceptable. Hopefully all the councillors understand that and work for the community and represent them. Then in the future we don't have the problem. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The next delegate, welcome. If you could state your name, please.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Prabjot Dillon, and I live on 82 Maple Valley Street, which is right behind this proposed amendment. I agree with everybody here. I don't want to repeat everything they have said already. My biggest concern is the safety of our kids. I got 3 little kids which are going to school and slowly will be going to the school across this proposed building. If anybody from here come to that area in the morning between 7:30 to 9 o'clock, or in the afternoon between 2 to 3:30, you can see that it's accident meant to be happening. There's so much traffic there. There's people driving like crazy. It's adding more people into this small piece of land is gonna make it more worse. Second thing is all the schools. I moved from Milton back to Brampton as my family was here, but all the schools are overly packed with kids. So adding 76 more residential units to this small area is gonna make it worse. People will have to drive further away to drop their kids off to school, which is not the ideal situation for a lot of us. And safety of our kids should be kept in mind before any decision on this is made. Thank you.
Thank you. Hello and welcome. State your name, please.
I'm Ravi Virk. Good evening, member, chair, Madam Chair, staff, and the public. So I'm here to represent my residential area. So like everybody has said, there is a rezoning kind of a thing going on in the area. It was marked as commercial, but now it is mixed development. So when we bought the houses way early, 6 to 7 years ago, there were high prices and the builders have charged us a premium on these houses because it was a high scale area. So the kind of a zoning the city is coming up with right now, which we were surprised after we saw the boards, is like making the area more crowded, and it's going totally reverse of how the area was planned before. to quote another example, there are more surprises going on in the area for some reason. There was a Riverstone Golf Club, and it was announced all of a sudden it has been sold, and it has become a senior resident. So even it's the same area, Ward number 8, and we are getting impacted by these kind of surprises in our area. So I don't know how we can raise our concern. We are here, all of us, to raise our concerns. Yeah, we are getting impacted. Our lives are getting impacted, and there has to be some transparent way. We should know how the things are happening, because we are paying through the nose for all the property taxes, and we are sending all the councillors and everybody here so that our best interests are protected. But after hearing all these kind of things, I think it is not being protected, and we are being compromised on our quality of life and everything. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Hello and welcome.
Hi, thank you. My name is Cynthia Sri Prakash. I reside at 45 Watchman Road. And again, safety is a concern. There's been breaks in lately. And we did pay premium for our lots due to a park, and we have ponds. And again, we purchased these properties based on quiet neighborhood. And definitely we don't want commercial plus residential mixed. Another concern is every 2-3 days there is a big accident. Last summer we literally had a car flipped on its roof in front of Calderstone and front of my house. Last week we had 2 accidents right by the intersection, and also everybody is mentioning Calderstone. We do have Red Willow literally a couple of meters away from where this proposal is happening. So there are 2 schools that needs to be considered, not only Calderstone. And again, as my friend said, there is a huge traffic. The school, Red Willow, starts, I believe, around 7:20, and Calderstone starts at 7:30. So there is a huge traffic. And also where the current commercial plaza is, there are quite a few, I would say, important businesses, such as Scotiabank. So if you travel within, I believe, about 2 kilometers, there is no Scotiabank. So whoever has a Scotiabank account, trying to get into that particular plaza. And also there is doctor's office, there is restaurants, and also there is physiotherapy. Also, to add more traffic into the plaza, they have Dairy Queen. So another thing is safety concern is number 1 for our kids. And also hospital wait time, I don't even have to mention that, everybody knows that. When we go into Emerge, for example, easily we're waiting for 6 to 7 hours. Safety on the road. Again, I go back to Cottrell, everybody is flying down. Last summer, I went through a battle, and finally we have school zone with solar panels. So that's indicating and forcing people, at least telling them, whoever is speeding, slow down. So that's been done. Number 2 is our parks. Our parks are overcrowded. We're trying to go to the park every other day, and I see new faces. Used to be like when we go to the park, we know everybody. Now, we're not even sure where these people are coming from. So obviously, outsiders are coming to our parks. Outsiders are coming to do unnecessary stuff by our parks. Again, when we bought this property, the builder actually advertised as green space because of Clearville. And all of a sudden, we are getting all these big projects into our neighborhood. And we are saying yes to commercial only. We are saying no to mixed commercial and residential. And again, my points are, I don't want to repeat as my neighbors. And that's it so far. So I would kindly ask you guys to keep it only as commercial.
Cynthia, thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Appreciate
you.
your time.
Hi, my name is Gurdeep Saini, and thank you for giving me time, and thank you all for coming out. I just have a couple of points. I would say I just heard underground parking. I mean, we moved from Finch and Weston to this quiet neighborhood, and if I wanted to live in an area where it's underground parking and only 15 parking spots for a big plaza, rather move back there. And just before you make a decision on this, I would say just go around, drive around the area and see what kind of people are living there, what kind of housing is there. And you'll see like it's a very quiet neighborhood and we're building multi-story complexes over there. It's going to really affect the area and traffic and all the other points. I think my neighbors already said that. Thank you.
Gurdeep, thank you. And just a reminder that a recommendation report is probably several months down the road. Welcome. Could you state your name, please?
I'm Jasbir Kharbanda, and good evening to everyone here. And as my neighbors and my friends has already mentioned about the high price premium, high taxes, and privacy, and I live next to the wall where the existing wall is there, so my privacy, you can say that I'm opening my place to everyone to peep in. And I have young daughter-in-law and everything, so privacy issue is there mainly because I live next to the wall. And many people has already left, those who wanted to speak because of the late. It's not your fault, but because of the late evening, it happened like this. And it's not a low density area, it's a high density area. When you come, it's really crowded. It became already crowded with the houses. And now this thing is, a building is come up so many, I think we are inviting more than 300 people. And we are objecting this, and we have more than 300 signatures for this. And we don't have copies right now, but we can send the email for that. And accident happens, as my neighbor told. When another accident happened from the plaza, the car straight went to my neighbor's backyard last year. It is already so much crowded, and very less parking is there. And there are two access for that plaza. But McMinn access has been used very rarely. Mostly the access has been used, the Cottrell one. And this building is coming up near the Cottrell. And maybe the 76 residential and the commercial people will use this same access. And next to is the school, where the children, they met the accident. As you have heard, every day accidents are happening. And when you come this area, you will see the whole street of cars when the morning area, school opening up and the closing time. And it's a very, and there is only the only park is there is near the school, and it is not properly built. Seniors go and sit there, children play, it's not properly done, but still they go move around and this thing. Senior people, they walk around, but because of this thing, I don't think that they will be able to walk around easily, because so many traffic will come around this thing. And very, very difficult for children to play. We need the proper park and walking place for the seniors and sitting place, not the building. We can, yes, they can bring the commercial with big, such exercises places or something big, this thing, but we are objecting for the residential units, and that are also 76 units. So these are already other points my neighbors and friends have mentioned. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Jaspreet. Do we have any other speakers? Welcome.
Good afternoon, ma'am. My name is Sibalak. I bought the model home from Touchstone in that area. I live next door to the lady here who representing us. What I got to say, I don't mind they put the commercial building, but no housing on top of that, because the people houses will be higher than ours, and they will look right into our home. It will be lower. That's all I got to say. And number two, this traffic and Cottrell and McVean. You go in and Cottrell, and you come out on McVean. That's all they got right now, the city got, which is very bad planning. That is not the way the thing should have been. It's a commercial place, and it should have been more than that, because you get a wall like an L. You can only go in one way and come out the other way. And I'd like one of you people to go and look at it before you give these people any okay about building something there. It's one of the worst plaza I ever see. I just moved here in 2009. I used to live in Alberta for 39 years. I never see something like this. And I'm sorry when I see this section of people and this section of people. I are caught in between. Tell you the truth. I don't know which side to talk about, but I'll tell you, we live in a city here. Oh, terrible. Things happen that shouldn't been happening. That's all I got to say.
Thank you very much.
Before you people make any decision, look where you got damaged. These people's life. these people's livelihood who was living there.
Thank you, sir. How many more speakers are there?
I'm the last one.
I think you're the second last one.
Sorry. Sorry.
Perhaps I can ask you.
I won't speak more than 2 sentences. Madam and everybody respected people, I respect you. You people are having seat because of whatever education and qualification for making a decision on this. Please see that this our coming doesn't become a game of a count, or doesn't become just your commented will be answered and only money plays. Please take our pains into consideration, and we have come because you have given the amendment. Whether we object or not object, we do object, and each person who has come represents a house, and there are more people who are there. So we just want you to say that please do consider, and if you were in my family and if somebody comes to you in the pain, you will first say, I don't want the pain, okay? And then if he wants to make a money builder, please don't let him amend this, because resident commercial we don't say no, okay? Everybody said that. So let him make money and do things. We bring them employment, bring job, bring everything. Let them do whatever they want, but not the residential, because it will be bad for them who are coming in. I'm telling you, because they will not be getting that facility which people already living there are crying for, and you want to put more people there to cry further. It will be chaos. Thank you.
Could you state your name, please? Just before.
Rupinder Kharbanda.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Welcome.
Hello, my name is Sylvia of 8 Village Court. It's all the speakers here so far have been specifically from this area, and it's important to consider the needs of each area when it's being developed. However, as duly elected city councilors, you must also consider the needs of the city. The city is dealing with an enormous housing crisis, and it needs housing. While they've brought up concerns about overcrowding for the schools, if you look at the plan, there's only 6 3-bedroom units, and the rest are 2 or 1-bedroom units, which is not likely to create a massive stress on the schools. If you look at how cities are normally developed, you have commercial and residential separate, and then as they grow, you have residential placed on top of commercial. See anywhere in downtown. This is the ordinary way cities develop, and the needs of the city as a whole need to be considered in this. Thank you.
Thank you, Sylvia. Okay, seeing no further delegations this evening, do any members of council have questions of clarification only on the application? Councillor Fortini.
One of the residents mentioned, are we doing a traffic study there now? Can you answer that?
So through you, Madam Chair. So I can't speak to a city-initiated study, the study as it relates to the existing operations of McVean. Can't speak for our engineering staff in that respect, but what I can confirm is that through this application, we have received a traffic impact study. So that study in support of this application is being reviewed by staff, and we'll be providing comments on it through a later recommendation report through to council.
Can I ask when that traffic study was done on the application?
This traffic study will be available online for any members of the public who want to review it.
That's right, Madam Chair. So the study will be available, just
Thank
as
you.
all the studies will be. And the date of this particular study, I can't confirm when it was prepared, but I would really assume that it was created just in line with this development application as it was received, which is a recent study then.
So just for clarification again, McVean has been under construction all the way in Queen for over 8 months now. So how can we do a traffic study if it's under construction? Yeah.
So through you, Madam Chair, so staff will be reviewing the study and the context of it as well, and we'll be hearing from them if they believe that there's any fundamental issues contained within the study relative to any construction that's ongoing.
Can we also look at, and the lady brought a good point, I had it all written down. you're looking at the height and you're looking at people's backyards, at the height restriction. You know, it's like a 3 floors, so really the people on the top can actually see below, look on that part. Does this type of plan, maybe we could ask, maybe clarify for the resident, type of plan that always happen in other municipalities where someone has a plan and all of a sudden just changes it from commercial to residential, it comes up with something like this? Is that normal in every municipality? Or is it to do it?
To you, Madam Chair, I can't really confirm the exact nature of other types of applications, other cities. I can say generally that here in the city, and I would suspect elsewhere as well, that there are these types of applications generally, where you do take a land use and modify it at a later point in time and propose some intensity there too as well. So generally, I would say that yes, these sorts of applications generally are received here and elsewhere.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Fortini, would you like to move
Yep.
approval of the staff report, receipt of the delegations and the presentations and the correspondence?
Yes.
All done? All those in favor? That's carried. I'd like to thank everybody for coming out this evening. If there's any comments that you wished you had made or think of after you leave tonight's meeting, by all means, please contact the city and make the submission. They will be included as part of the public record and responded to in the final recommendation report. Okay? Thank you very much. I'll give you a few minutes to leave. We've got a couple of more items on the agenda. Have a good evening and a safe drive home. Oh, shoot, yes. Okay, we have one more delegation left this evening. It's under delegations. We've adjourned the statutory public meeting portion of the agenda, and I'd like to invite forward Mr. Zabula Abduli.
Good evening,
Hello and welcome.
Madam of Chair and member. My name is Zabula Abduli. Just I'm talking about regarding the 60 Eastern Avenue, Brampton, that I purchased it recently. On September last year, I go to the city for zoning, and asked them to what's the zoning for this building that I'm purchasing, over $2 million. And they give me a paper that says zone for that purpose that I needed. And then I got it, that one with me here. When I got it, that after month later, then I tried to get to move the condition of the things by purchaser. They ask, because I asked for from the sellers that they put a condition for me to, if it's zone for you good, then you're gonna go for to remove the condition of that. Then I removed the condition. I came back to the city. I asked again. That's this zoning is for me because I see the zonings for my purpose that I'm using it. Is they give me again another paper. They say yeah, it's zoned for the motor vehicle sales and the repair service shop. When I did it, that one, then I go remove the condition. I bought the building. After that, when I come to the city, after 2 months later, when I did all my, I got equity loans on my houses, these stuff. I put all my money through that to buy this building. I bought it. By that things, when I came back to the city, I got my permit for that building for my purpose that I'm using it. After 3 weeks later, they revoked the license from me. They said the city, 2 months on November, is a city bylaw is passed that enter control by law is 246-2017 is passed that you cannot get this zoning for this area that you purchase. This on my things, which is I did my due diligence, everything. By that time, everything was okay. When I purchased it, later on, they say you cannot do that. This, if somebody buy $1 billion a building, later on you could do due diligence, everything done. Later on, you say to him, you cannot do that. In my opinion, it's not my fault. The city has to inform me at that time when I came twice, and I got a letter from them, and I got go get my permit. Still, the city doesn't know. They give me that permit. After that, one lady, she told me, this is something happened in this area. You cannot get these things. I say, how? That's why you say it's better to ask Mr. David Vanderberg. I went to David. I asked him why these things happened to me, because I bought this building. I put all my things, all my money, everything that I added, I put in this building. I bought it to run my business. Then suddenly happened like that, and you say, okay, write down a letter for Mr. Alan Person from March 27, 2018. I have this letter to send it to him, and I didn't get no response till now. This is almost 4 or 5 months. And I go to Mr. Jeff Bowman. I go to every day I'm coming to the city. You know what happened? I spent a lot of money on that, and I did everything. People here was only talking about the building is building in front of him, but I spent all my money and I put all my house, everything. I get a loan on that equity loan. I cannot pay my mortgage now. I cannot pay mortgage for this building that I had it for $10,000 every month. How am I gonna pay that? When I go home, I don't have money to this all 4 months. I don't have no money, no getting nothing. Because my business stuck, I'm sitting every day drinking coffee, sitting over there. What time I'm getting my apartment back?
Mr. Abdullah, we don't have a staff report on this evening. I've got a couple of speakers on the board. The process when we don't have a staff report is to receive your delegation and refer the matter to staff with direction to, in this case, I guess, do a bit of a postmortem on what's transpired with this file. Unless staff have some direction that you would like to receive. I see Councillor Medeiros on the board.
Through you, Madam Chair. The normal course of action in this circumstance would be for staff to get some direction to report back. That would happen in September, given the timelines. There is another course of action, which would be for the landowner to go through the Committee of Adjustment. Either way, there's no guarantee. The reason these lands were frozen was through the interim control bylaw that was passed for the Queen Street corridor, and that study is underway right now. So again, there's no guaranteed method to find the outcome that the proponent is looking for, but there are several avenues that they could
No, and I
pursue.
understand that, but what I also hear is that the clock is ticking for this gentleman, and he feels like he was caught between doing his due diligence and some action here at the city that, either he was not made aware of, or there was no way for him to be made aware of. If there is some corrective measures that can be taken that are swifter, possibly, then I think reporting back or using another process. But I think it is important to sort of peel back the layers on this and see what happened on it. Councillor Medeiros.
Thank you, Chair. I think you expressed a lot. What I wanted to say is understanding the process, but clearly we have a business owner who's put in this situation on the decision that is probably the right decision. Even if we were to pass anything here today, it would still have to be ratified at council. So September would still be that date. And I guess the only other measure is if a special meeting was called, but that's not going to happen during. And I guess to Mr. Abouli?
Yes.
Yes. So, and I guess before you purchased the property, you did all your due diligence?
I did everything. I have the paper here. Even they told me if you have a dealership, you can do this minor variant things on the cars. I did it this one. I came again the second time because I don't want to even remove the things that I put it on that one for the condition. I didn't remove it. Still, I came again back to the city. The city said, yeah, it says zoning. I got it again. Then I remove the condition. I put my house, it's everything through that I bought this this building. And now 3 people's families, my kids, my brother and my brother-in-law, we put all 3 houses to get the equity loan to $200,000 to put through that mortgage. Then too much stress till I get my mortgage. Finally, I got my mortgage, everything done. When I got to the city, I got my permit. After 3 weeks, they came back, and the lady, thanks her, she told me, before you run your job, go see Mr. Things, because there's a new law, is 2 months past in this area, maybe one day is going to be something problem to you. Then I go to Mr. David, I ask him, what's the problem? He told me, oh yeah, it's zoning passed like that. I said, it's not my fault. If I knew that, if it's rental, I never bothered nobody like that. But I bought it, I put everything. This is nothing left for me now to pay my mortgage. I show my account, I bring my account, everything is now go down the things. I cannot pay my things for 3 families. I go begging on the street or rob the people. It's my fault.
Okay.
Yeah, and I thank you through the chair. I guess I don't know who would be able to respond, but any decision we make here at planning, in terms of the ratification that was needed by council, is there not something we can do interim and have it come back in September? Is that? I'm not sure about process, or the city clerk, and maybe.
Through you, Madam Chair, Planning Committee is a committee of council, so we cannot make any final decisions. Any recommendation of a motion that's adopted this evening would have to be ratified by council, as you correctly noted.
So we're better off not passing a resolution other than referring it back to staff to advise the delegate on the most expedient process to resolve the matter.
Yeah, I'll let my other colleagues talk.
Councillor Bowman.
Thank you very much. Through you, Madam Chair. What do I say? I mean, I brought this up to planning probably 3 weeks to a month ago to find out what could be done. And I got sort of the same response. We've got to go through Committee of Adjustment, or we've got to go through planning. I feel so bad because we've got a gentleman here who's invested everything into a property. The city told him.
17 years.
Excuse me, sir, I know how important a matter this is for you. We will receive your delegation, but the conversation at this point is between members of council and staff.
And, so through no fault of his own, he was given permission to do what he needed to do. Am I wrong? He was given the papers that said the application that he's buying the building for is the correct application back in March at the time when he was buying the building. Then council came in and put an interim control bylaw in after he had already purchased the building, after he had already had the approvals. I mean, we've seen something like this in a very different format with a Kwanzaa hut 2 years ago, where a mistake was made and a Kwanzaa hut was allowed to be built just around the corner here. And it was allowed to go ahead, and it was allowed to be built, and it still sits there today. So there's got to be something we can do here. Waiting until September, I don't think is an option for this gentleman. He's not going to have this building. He may not have an apartment in September. I don't know jurisdictionally what we can do, Peter, but I think we need to get an answer for this gentleman now or within the next week. I mean, this looks bad. This looks very bad on us as a council and on us as a city that this sort of thing has happened. So we need to find some way to resolve this. Otherwise, this gentleman is not going to have a property.
Through you, Madam Chair, and this has been explained to the property owner, is there's potentially two courses of action. One is to delegate tonight, but he knows that council cannot make a decision until September 12th. The second, and we're going to follow up with him tomorrow, is there is a Committee of Adjustment meeting scheduled for August 21st, and there's an application deadline of July 24th. The property owner could file an application with the Committee of Adjustment to request an exemption to the interim control bylaw. There is precedent for that. I will say this is a process answer. This is not prejudging how the Committee of Adjustment will view this particular exemption request. But if the committee were to make a decision on August 21st and the 20-day appeal period were to then be invoked, it's conceivable that a decision would be final and binding by September 11th or 12th. So then that is a faster process than waiting for a council decision potentially on September 12th, and what appeal period may result as a result of any council decision from that.
Are you operating your business already?
Not yet. There's still my things. David came take a picture. I said, don't take the picture from outside. Come in front of my building. It's done. I put all my material outside. Everything rusted now. All my tools, everything outside the building. I didn't even put inside because I don't like to put something without no permit or something to that somebody come again give me a ticket for that. I put everything outside from 3 months, everything rusted. I said, take this picture, not the outside of my building. On all my areas, all of them is, if it's only me, it's okay, that's all residential. All of them commercial. Cross the street is body shop, mechanics, all this stuff. I got all the picture here. I brought it with me.
Thank you. Mr. Zabula, we can't make a decision tonight. What we're trying to do is understand what's the best way to assist you and to provide you with the advice that is going to get you to a finish line. So I appreciate, so Councillor Bowman, are you finished?
Yes.
Okay, I will look for a motion to refer this to staff to work with the delegate this evening to provide the best advice on proceeding. Councillor Palashi.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So if there's two avenues that Peter's explained, both avenues bring them to September 11th or the next day council on September the 12th, right? After the appeal period, or it supports today and gets ratified in the minutes on September the 12th?
If hypothetically, if council were to make a decision to grant an exemption to the interim control bylaw on September 12th, I understand there may still be an appeal period that is associated with that. So a decision wouldn't essentially be final and binding through a council decision on September 12th, whereas through a committee of adjustment decision perhaps on August 21st, and the appeal period associated with that expiring on September 11th, a decision could be final and binding there.
So neither scenario, and this is directed to staff, neither scenario seems like it's an option for the resident. So I know staff we have a lot of smart people in the room, and you guys have been talking and listening to council, and I think our planning seems to have, there's a lot of members here that seem to think that we should waive the interim control bylaw. Staff have any comments on what to do, how to proceed to? Come on, Johnny.
Through you, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
It's already been stated in that the committee today does not have, as constituted as a committee of council, does not have the authority to amend the bylaw today. Then that's what he needs, and that he's got currently, as of right, I believe it's auto sales, but not the repair. And so he'd like to have both the auto repair and the sales. Committee of Adjustment, if he can get the Committee of Adjustment in September, that decision would allow him, assuming that the committee would be amenable to it, would allow him to have both uses. In terms of the appeal period, if council were to make a decision in September, he would effectively be allowed to commence that use immediately, regardless of whether there was an appeal or otherwise. There's different rules for ICBLs in that regard. But either way, you're looking at September unless you had a meeting of council in advance of that date.
So, Councillor Palashi, the clerk would like to offer another potential suggestion.
Through you, Madam Chair, following just what the solicitor just advised, if committee were to make a recommendation tonight, then to ratify that, it could be through a special meeting of council. It could be called one of two ways, either by the mayor directly with 24 hours notice, or by a majority of the members of council submitting a petition in writing to the clerk's office to call a special meeting with minimum 24 hours notice.
You know what, I thank you, Peter, and I say, you know what, I'm around, it's an election year, so none of us are going anywhere. So, we don't need you, you're retiring. But I'll leave it up to the area councilors. If you're willing to waive the ICBL, I'll support it. I'll support you guys, for sure. But I say we do it now. And then you wanna call a special meeting? I'm around. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Sprobieri.
Sure we do.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. And I agree that this gentleman is in a bind, in a very serious bind. His sole livelihood is at stake. And I believe that we should make the decision tonight and see if we have Monday or Tuesday that most of us can be here at 9 o'clock in the morning and have a special council meeting and deal with it. He deserves
I think
a resolution.
It'll require, the mayor may be prepared to call a special meeting.
Oh, we could do it, 6 of
Or
us.
there would be a petition
Yeah.
to sign it, but based on availability.
Yeah, either Monday or Tuesday or even Wednesday, as soon as possible.
Councillor Gibson.
Yes, but we haven't heard from staff, and we're already presuming something. I mean, I think we need to hear from staff. I think we need to refer it back to staff to work on something to help this gentleman out, if possible. But we're all presuming interim control bylaws, I'll remind everybody, interim control bylaws are put in for reasons. And this may be a reason. I don't know. But we, just give our staff an opportunity to meet with the gentleman, to see what they can do, and then get back to us as quick as possible and give us some information. I'm not making a decision based on no information in front of me. I got no information, nothing, just verbal. So I can't support something just on hearsay. I don't think that's a responsible thing for us to do. So I'm moving to refer back to staff, the direction to staff to work as quickly as possible to find a solution for this gentleman.
Okay, thank you. So now I have a referral. Councillor Medeiros.
Speaking, I guess, to the referrals, or a referral on the
Yeah, and I'm going to get some advice with your indulgence,
Yep.
Councillor Medeiros. If we have a referral to staff, is it necessary to work with the applicant, but is it necessary that we pass a motion here this evening to provide an exemption to the ICBL? Or can a special meeting be called once staff have had an opportunity to pull information together, and at the point that they are ready, which may be next week, to call a special meeting to deal with that, because it would be a council meeting, and therefore we could pass the resolution and ratify it at the same meeting. So we don't need to do something tonight in haste. We can make sure that we have the right motion for next week. That way staff and the applicant can work to, as I said, peel back the onion and see what transpired in terms of a timeline on this, and then call a special meeting. So it doesn't preclude us doing that, and I think everybody hears that that is a possibility for next week.
And
Okay?
Yeah.
So would you support Councillor
Oh, yeah, yeah. Thank you,
Gibson's
Chair.
referral? Yeah. When staff are ready and okay. Okay, the lawyer's coming back here. This must be getting serious. Councilor Medeiros, did you have some other comments that you
No,
wanted
I
to
think
make?
that was effectively that. Thank you, Chair. That was, I support the referral if we can make at least a decision next week.
Okay. I'm just going to wait while the clerk and legal confirm.
Yeah.
Do we need some legal advice, Mr. Zangaro?
So through you, Madam Chair, I was just concerned about what we're talking about is enacting an interim control bylaw. I understand that we're not talking about doing that tonight. So obviously that's a concern because there are notice requirements, which is exactly why the clerk was suggesting that if you've got a special meeting, you've got the notice requirements associated with that. So I'm satisfied with the procedural type steps, and I believe yourself, you were suggesting that this matter come back or be referred back to staff so that we could actually try to work something out. And then if a meeting was required, then the appropriate notice would be provided and so on, and that if in fact council were to proceed with the bylaw, that we would have had all of the i's dotted and the t's crossed at that point.
Okay.
However,
Oh.
I would add, if this is something that you would like to consider and refer back with some sort of direction to enact or to consider the enactment of a bylaw,
Of the an exemption to
of
the
an
ICBL.
exemption to the bylaw, which is a bylaw.
Okay,
There are consequences and implications associated with that. And if you'd like some advice in that regard, I would suggest you go in camera. I understand that for the most part, council's aware of the risks associated with amending these interim control bylaws. We've had a lot of requests recently in that regard because we have a number of these bylaws out there. So there are some risks and concerns every time you open up or amend one of these bylaws. I understand that this gentleman's circumstances are very unique, and you can't help but listen to him and understand the pain and frustration that he's going through. But there are larger considerations to be considered as well.
My motion was very simple. Send it back to staff, for staff to immediately work on a solution, if possible, report back to staff. If they can find a solution that means in 2 weeks, we hold or 1 week, whatever, we hold a special council meeting, they will advise the mayor and advise to call one. But there may not be a solution to this. It may be you have to go to community adjustment at the end of the day. But we don't know that. So I can't make a decision not knowing that. So I like to keep it simple and just refer it back in that way.
I'm sorry, I'm jumping in here, but would it be possible, or more appropriate perhaps, that when and if a special council meeting is called, that there be an in-camera component to it prior to the consideration of whatever the resolution might be?
So, Madam Chair, I think Councillor Gibson has explained his position and what he's prepared to do very well, which is just refer it back to staff. There aren't any implications at that point.
Okay.
If it were to come back, then we could go in camera should there be need to do that.
Okay, okay. So there's a motion to refer it back to staff with direction to work with the property owner to find a resolution. Failing that, other options we'll explore at that time. Okay, which will include, or may include, a special meeting. Councillor Gibson has moved referral. All those in, you snuck on there, Councillor Palacio.
Madam Chair. With the notice that has to go out in the public, what are those requirements? Is it speaking to the referral? And through to what you had said, John, we have to give public notice, does that have to be in the paper?
So I'm going to refer that, through you, Madam Chair, I'll refer that question over to the clerk, because it's really what is required under the procedure bylaw, which mirrors the Municipal Act requirements.
So it's not the Planning Act, it's our procedural bylaw?
Yeah.
Through you, Madam Chair, that is correct. So the procedure bylaw does allow for a special meeting to be called with a minimum 24 hours notice to at least allow 24 hours of some type of notice. Where possible, in special meeting circumstances, we try to give as much notice as possible. To the best of my knowledge, based on these circumstances, there's no requirement to give notice in a newspaper or general circulation. This is to give notice to the members of council, posted on the city's website, just as we would any other special meeting.
That's for the meeting, I'm sorry, I'm talking about waiving an interim control bylaw.
It's the
You
same.
said it's the same as holding a council meeting?
That's correct, and as the solicitor pointed out, there would still have to be a bylaw adopted at that special meeting, but there is no extraordinary notice requirements that we're aware of in terms of publishing in a newspaper, giving, mail notice within so many meters of the subject property.
Okay. I was under the assumption that that's kind of what you're saying with the interim control bylaw, that we needed to do the 240 meters.
No,
and,
no.
Okay.
No, because this is an exemption too. Okay, all those in favor of the referral with direction? Thank you. Just so that you're clear, and maybe somebody can explain it to the gentleman so can you do that? Okay. Sadly, Mr. Commissioner, we have a really exciting presentation at 10:20 this evening. I'm at committee's indulgence. Pardon? Can we take a 10-minute break?
Through you, Madam Chair, I was hoping to spend about 90 minutes with you to walk through some process improvements.
Really? Did you bring an overnight bag? Elliot?
I think understanding the length of the day that everybody's gone through, the report is quite fulsome in speaking to some of the process improvements and some of the good news we have. So I think that we would probably appreciate, as everybody would, not having a presentation on this material tonight.
Well, I'll tell you, because of the late hour, but I will tell you, it is deserving of our full attention, and you deserve an opportunity to present this to committee and to council, because this really represents a lot of work that has taken place over the past year in your department and your division that really needs to be celebrated. So, at this late hour, it really wouldn't do it the justice that it is deserving.
Correct.
So, would someone like to move, I don't know whether it's deferral or referral, but September 10th. And you worked so hard to get this to us this evening. I feel really bad about that, Mr. Commissioner, because it really was very exciting for us to have had the opportunity. So somebody's moved referral to September 10th, Councillor Medeiros. It will be the first thing on the agenda. I know it would have been sort of unfair to all the people standing in the hallway to do that this evening. Wasn't the right time, but this is deserving of our full attention, and so we can share in all the hard work that you've done. Okay? We have two people on the board. Councillor Medeiros on the referral?
Just to move referral, that's
Okay,
fine.
good. Councillor Palashi?
Is there an opportunity, if there happens to be a special council meeting called for any reason in the next couple of weeks or something, could we add this to that agenda?
All members of council may not be available.
All members of council aren't here now.
We can take it under advisement. Councillor Gibson?
Hey, this is a very important thing. Would it be better to refer it to the next council meeting in September, rather than where people are watching, people may see a planning meeting? We're
Yep.
limited to our people. I think it's important, maybe a council meeting to have it.
I think you're right.
First thing on the agenda.
Very first presentation on the very first council meeting in September is where we're referring this to. September 12th. Councillor Medeiros moved that. All in favor? That's carried. So we've moved 6.1 and 7.1. There are no minutes handed out. There's no other business. There's no referred matters, deferred matters, notice of motion. Councillor question period. Does anybody have any questions? Seeing none. Are there any questions from members of the public in attendance this evening? Sylvia, really? We'll rename this. We'll rename this Sylvia's question period. All those in favor of adjournment, moved by Councillor Fertini. All, that's carried. Thank you. Enjoy the rest of your summer. Safe drive home, everybody.